And brought to you via St. Louis, Missouri, this is Bombers Game Mic. And I'm going to start today's play-by-play stream by saying a very happy Memorial Day to you. And while this is a day of celebration, it is also a day of remembrance. And if you knew somebody that was a friend, a family member, a loved one that did end up dying in the line of duty, in addition to all those other else who made the ultimate sacrifice, keep them in your thoughts here today on this very special and very important American holiday. And with that in mind, this is the St. Louis Cardinals, and they are up at Miller Park. No, I will not be calling it American Family Field. That is my one and only time I will make mention of that today, against the Milwaukee Brewers. And for the Cardinals here at this point, I mean, I don't think there's any other realistic way of putting this. This is probably their most consequential matchup so far in 2026, based on where things are in the standings and the three-horse race that's happening atop the NL Central right now. And so over the next 6 games, so between now and Wednesday, off day Thursday, and then Friday, Saturday, Sunday, they'll have the Brewers, then they come home, and then they get the Cubs. So these 6 games matter a lot to the Cardinals. And I know there's only so many super critical games you can play at the end of May at any given season. However, given the extremely competitive dynamics at the moment atop the NL Central, I'm afraid that's just what we're dealing with. So here on this Memorial Day afternoon, with the Cards up in southern Wisconsin, you're getting yourself some first-class baseball today. And with that in mind, going for the Redbirds today is the lefty Matthew Liberatore, who was originally supposed to start yesterday. He got scratched in favor of a rather top pitching prospect pull-up to make a spot start. Of course, that game did not happen, most disappointingly. I was really looking forward to calling that rubber match, and we'll get to have that as part of a split doubleheader on August 17th when the Cardinals go back to Cincinnati for what was originally scheduled as a 4-game series. Now, with the split doubleheader, has become a 5-game series in the dog days of August for the Redbirds. And going for Milwaukee today is an arm that I have to imagine, as Cardinal fans, you are probably familiar with, and at least you've heard of. And that is the young right-hander, Jacob Misiorowski. And there is no way to play this down. This guy has electric stuff that is shared by very, very few other professionals that have ever taken the mound, including Hall of Famers. Just because you have electric stuff, that does not make you great. We have seen many, many pitchers come and go that have absolutely blinding stuff, but don't pan out. It's different here in this case. So I believe in the roughly 74 innings pitched so far, I think, or maybe it's 71, that Misiorowski has pitched this year, he has accumulated 88 strikeouts against only 18 walks. Okay? That is insane. That means a few different things. It means he, one, obviously has electric stuff, but two, he consistently throws it for strikes, and given his swing and miss percentage for everybody who's played this year in 2026, that means they are quality strikes and they are missing bats. So you're talking about a four-seam fastball that regularly registers in triple digits. I saw this guy and called a game several weeks ago where the Yankees were in Milwaukee, and that is a very good offense by every metric overall so far in 2026. He silenced them all. So you have that four-seam fastball that's regularly registering in triple digits, a lot of times around 102, 103, sometimes even an occasional 104, in addition to the fact it has rising action on it. So it's very hard to square up. He complements that with a mid-90s turbo slider down and in to the lefties, down and away from the righties. We've seen it get as high as 96 miles an hour. He also throws a cut fastball that's reasonably comparable in terms of velocity. He has a changeup that gets clocked at 93 miles per hour. I haven't seen many changeups like that, and something of a show-me curveball. So, needless to say, he's very, very good. Does that mean the Cardinals have no chance? Of course not. This is a major league lineup, the 12th best offense in all of baseball. They are professional hitters. If they find an opening in there somewhere, they will exploit it big time. But really, when you come up with a guy like this, and you're coming up against a guy like this, it's kind of how you used to have to beat Pedro Martinez back when he was in his prime. You want a quality arm out there for your side that can match them 0 for 0, work the count against the guy, and then try to shoo him off, and then take your chances against the opposing bullpen, because invariably none of them will be as dominant, presumably, as the starter who begun the game for the opposition. So while the Cardinals most definitely can do damage, we've seen it happen. They've definitely had success against Paul Skeens so far, who has not had his usual year so far in 2026, but it's still Paul Skeens. And making a mark against him under any circumstances is a serious accomplishment. Hopefully something like that can translate this afternoon against Jacob Misiorowski. And don't let Misiorowski's baby face fool you. I know for a fact, I was saying it just the other day, that it looks like he could be at his high school senior prom. And if you haven't seen him yet and you see him on the mound here in a few minutes, because we're a few minutes away from first pitch, don't let it fool you. Because while you could throw a bad rented tux on the kid, and he looked like he's at his senior prom, I can assure you this guy has all-world stuff for the Milwaukee Brewers. So we await first pitch. I'd like to thank everyone here for joining me today. Yes, go Cards. Thank you, everybody, for getting on in here, joining the chat, and spending some of your Memorial Day with me. Now, up in Miller Park today, the roof is open. And even though it's currently overcast, it's actually supposed to be clearing up more as the afternoon goes on. So it'll be a nice afternoon of baseball in southern Wisconsin as the game progresses. And on the mound here, warming up, is Jacob Misiorowski. In fact, it's 78 degrees right now in Milwaukee on the fair shores of Lake Michigan. Let me give you that starting lineup for the Cardinals. Leading off, J.J. Weatherholt playing second. Batting second at DH is Ivan Herrera. Batting third at first base is Alec Burleson. Batting cleanup, the right fielder, Jordan Walker. Batting fifth, the third baseman, Nolan Gorman. Batting sixth, the shortstop, Mason Wynn. Batting seventh, the left fielder, Brian Torres. Batting eighth, the catcher, Pedro Paez. And then in center field, batting ninth, Victor Scott II. And here comes Jacob Misiorowski, 4-2 with a 1.89 ERA, 18 walks, 88 strikeouts, a whip of 0.88. So the numbers very much reflect what I was telling you there earlier. And this guy, like a lot of young starters in the league, he doesn't actually go from the windup. He remains in the stretch. Doing so makes it so that he doesn't have to really change his mechanics in any meaningful way on the occasion when a base runner reaches. Maybe a bit of a slide step if necessary, but that's about it. So the Cardinals definitely have a challenge here today. And we are almost ready here for first pitch. Jacob Misiorowski has finished taking his warm-ups, and stepping up to the plate is the rookie, as far as I'm concerned, one of the leading contenders for Rookie of the Year, J.J. Weatherall. It is a righty-lefty matchup. Coming set is Misiorowski. He deals upstairs, four-seam fastball, 103 miles per hour, and we are underway. It is a 1-0 count to J.J. Weatherall. Coming set is Misiorowski. Here's the 1-0. Called strike, inside corner below the belt, 103 miles per hour, and the count is now 1-1 strike to J.J. Weatherall. He comes set above the belt. Here's the 1-1. Upstairs and out of the zone away, and that brings the count to 2-1. Once again at 103 miles per hour. J.J. Weatherall through 50 games, 237, 9 home runs, 25 RBIs. He has been something quite special so far. Here's the 2-1. Down and in on the four-seam fastball. Once again, 103 miles per hour. And that'll bring the count to 3-1 strike against J.J. He is in a hitter's count here leading off the game. Coming set is Misiorowski. The pitch. Strike, four-seam fastball right down Broadway, 103 on the gun, and that brings the count full to 3-2. Ivan Herrera, today's DH, he's standing on deck. Coming set is Misiorowski. Now here's the 3-2 pitch. Inside ball 4, so leading it off here, J.J. Weatherall, he manages to work a walk against Misiorowski, who at least for the first batter is having a little trouble with the zone. They have Trio out in left, Mitchell in center, Perkins in right, Rengifo at third, Ortiz at short, Terang at second, Vaughn at first, Contreras behind the plate, and Misiorowski on the mound. That's your defensive alignment for the Brewers. Now here is Ivan Herrera, runner on first, nobody out. Here's a pitch. Strike, outside corner above the knees, four-seam fastball, 102 miles per hour from Misiorowski. Through 51 games, he's hitting 267, 6 home runs, 25 RBIs for the part-time catcher, part-time DH. Here's the 0-1 pitch. Strike, four-seam fastball, outside corner, right at the knees. Absolutely doubted that one. A true BB. And the count is now 2 strikes. Hello, my friend from Uganda. Well, retired in Uganda, I should say. Coming set is Misiorowski. He's holding. Here's the 0-2 to Herrera. Swinging strike 3. Down goes Herrera for the first out of the inning. He goes down swinging. Oh, not much, my friend. Just calling some Redbird baseball here on Memorial Day. And if you're just joining me here, let's do the roll call here on Game Mike. Where are you watching or listening from? And what do you expect the Cardinals to do against Misiorowski? Now, here is Alec Burleson, who's hitting .294. Weatherall leads off first with one out here in the top of the first. Here's the pitch. Strike, four-seam fastball right down Broadway, 103 miles per hour. Hey, Goran in the chat. Welcome aboard today. Uganda in the house indeed. Coming set is Misiorowski. He holds. Here's the 0-1. Foul back behind the plate on a slider in on the hands at 97 miles per hour. You heard that correctly. A 97 mile per hour slider. And that brings the count to 2 strikes. Weatherall, he leads off first. Coming set is Misiorowski. Here's the 0-2 pitch. Swinging strike 3 on the four-seam fastball up and away for the second out of the inning. clocked at 103 miles per hour. And that is where Mizorowski is dangerous. The velocity is one thing, but it's that rising movement that tends to stay in the strike zone and miss bats that makes him ridiculously effective. So they definitely have their work cut out today. Now here's Jordan Walker, the right-hander. He's batting .302. Weatherholt, he leads off first with 2 outs here in the top of the first. Here's the pitch. Hit to the left side. Right there is Rengifo. He throws to first in time for the third and final out of the inning. So 1 walk, no hits, 1 man left aboard. It is the Cardinals nothing, and the Milwaukee Brewers coming to the bat in the bottom of the first inning. I'm Paul D. This is Memorial Day, Redbird afternoon baseball, and this is Bombers Game Mic. Let us go to the chat. Absolutely everybody who's joined me here today, and once again, thank you so much for spending part of your Memorial Day with me. Let me know where you're watching or listening from. What are you doing today other than, of course, getting some Redbird action from yours truly? Are you at home? Are you going to a barbecue? Do you got something else in mind? Let me know. I like knowing what you got. I like knowing what you're doing. Brightens up my day. But yeah, what you saw right there, largely with the exception of the walk, Morton, Illinois is in the house. Cheers. Thank you so much, Kathy Thomas. With the exception of the leadoff walk to J.J. Weatherholt, what you saw there, especially to Herrera and Burleson, is Mizorowski to a T. Can they get to him? Yeah, they're a very good offensive team and major league hitters. But they do have quite a challenge before them. Let me give you here the Brewers lineup. You have Churrillo leading off, playing in left field. Terang batting second, playing second. Contreras, the catcher, he's batting third. Christian Yelich, the DH, he's batting cleanup. You have Vaughn down there at first base, batting fifth. Rengifo, the third baseman, batting sixth. Perkins, the right fielder, he's batting seventh. Mitchell, the center fielder, he's batting eighth. And Ortiz, the shortstop, is batting ninth. And here now is the Redbird lefty, Matthew Liberatore, 4-4 with a 4.40 ERA. And here is the first pitch to Churrillo. Just off the plate, four-seam fastball, 95 miles per hour for a ball. And that'll bring the count to 1 ball, no strikes. Wyoming joining the game here. Thank you so much for making yourself known. Now here's the 1-0 pitch. Strike, four-seam fastball on the outside corner at the knees to the righty Churrillo. And that'll bring the count to 1 ball and 1 strike. Churrillo, the right-hander, he's hitting .289 so far this year. Now here's the 1-1. Strike, four-seam fastball down and in to the righty. And that will put Liberatore ahead in the count, 1 ball and 2 strikes. Hot Springs, Arkansas. Thank you so much for tuning in. Now here's the 1-2 pitch. Curveball down in the dirt, well out of the zone. Count is 2-2. Liberatore is always best when he is dealing his Uncle Charlie very well in terms of location, mixing it in there well. Now here's the 2-2 pitch. Check swing, did he go around? No, says Blue down the first baseline on the slider down and in. And that brings the count full to 3 balls and 2 strikes. On deck is the second baseman, Bryce Terang. It's a full count here to Churrillo. Now here's the 3-2. Inside ball 4, so Churrillo works a leadoff walk against Liberatore to lead off this bottom of the second inning. So Liberatore starts by getting ahead in the count, but we'll get to this in a moment. We got Torres out there in left, Scott in center, Walker in right, Gorman at third, Wynn at short, Weatherholt at second, Burleson at first, Pajes behind the dish, and Matthew Liberatore on the mound. Now here's the lefty second baseman, Terang. Liberatore deers from the stretch. Strike, outside corner, right above the knees. Just spotted that one. The count is 0-1. Through 47 games, batting .291, 7 home runs, 30 RBIs, is the lefty hitting Bryce Terang. Runner leads off first. Here's the pitch. Four-seam fastball gets away from Pajes. Staying right there at first is Churrillo. That brings the count to 1 ball and 1 strike. Once again, if you're just joining me, get in the chat. Let me know where you're watching or listening from. What are you doing on this Memorial Day other than enjoying some Redbirds action up in Milwaukee here on Bombers Game Mike? Let me know in the chat. Always want to know what you guys are doing. So it's a 1-1 count here to Terang, who's taking his sweet time getting back in the box. It's a lefty-lefty matchup. Looking in for the sign. Coming set is Liberatore at the Birds. Here's the 1-1. Down and away, a slider clear out of the zone at 88 miles per hour to the lefty Terang. That brings the count to 2 balls and 1 strike. So this Brewer lineup is very efficient. I think it is fair to say. Now coming set at the Birds is Liberatore. Here's a 2-1. Just off the plate with a 4-seamer, 95 miles an hour, and that brings the count to 3 balls and 1 strike. Right now, Liberatore has one job. Match Mizorowski 0 for 0. Leading off first is Churrillo. Coming set at the Birds. Here's the pitch. Strike over the outer third, 95 miles an hour, 4-seam fastball, and that brings the count full to Bryce Terang. Churrillo leads off first, looking in for his sign. Liberatore comes set at the Birds from the stretch. Here's the 3-2. Fouled down the third base side and out of play. And the count will remain 3-2. Yes, we absolutely do need a double play, David Hodge. The count remains full. Jackson Churrillo leads off first. Coming set is Liberatore. Here's the pitch. Swinging strike 3. Down goes Terang for the first out of the inning. So Liberatore battles back in that at-bat. Manages to get Terang swinging on the 4-seam fastball up and in. And that's the first out of the inning. Now here's the catcher, the right-handed hitting Contreras, hitting .303 on the year. And the infield defense shows a clear shade towards left field. Once again, the roof is open today up at Miller Park. And here's the first pitch to Contreras. Curveball down and in the dirt, 81 miles per hour for a ball. And that brings the count to 1 ball and no strikes. How's everyone digging their Memorial Day? How are you spending it? Let me know where you're watching or listening from. Leading off first is Jackson Churrillo. In his last 6 games, Contreras is hitting .444. Here's the 1-0. Strike on the outer thirds, right at the knees. 4-seam fastball, 94 miles an hour, and the count is 1 ball and 1 strike to the righty hitting catcher for Milwaukee. Coming set at the Birds is Liberatore. Throws over to first, and they have him in a pickle. Can they get him, Dutch? And he is punched out at second. When he threw the pickoff move down there, and they're going to challenge the play, so it's going to be under review. Liberatore threw over to first. Churrillo was already off and running. Burleson threw it down to J.J. Weatherhull at second, who got the throw in, applied to tag. We need to see the replay here to see exactly what happened and see if they have a case there. They might. I can't tell yet. It looks like he might very well have been in. The umpire was right on top of it, but no, he was definitely safe. I don't see how he could be considered out on replay there. I mean, even Weatherhull's not expecting the punch out via review. I'll wait till the official call before I move him up to second on the score bug. I see. I understand, Warren. I understand. Shout out, it's my birthday. Well, Crawl. What's that? I need glasses. Crawl Cotton. And he is ruled safe. So Jackson Churrillo manages to steal second there despite the pickoff move. Down at second, it's a 1-1 count. Good afternoon from Milwaukee. Good luck, Cardinals. Well, thank you so much. Now it's a 1-1 count to Contreras. Come and set it from the stretch is Liberatore. Here's the 1-1. Hit to the left side and past a diving Gorman down there at third. Throwing the play home, and he is safe. He is safe. Scoring from second is Jackson Churrillo, and that puts the Milwaukee Brewers up 1-0 here in the top of the first inning. So some quick initial lightning here. The RBI single there by Contreras. Gorman, it just gets past him on the dive there. It was hit well wide of third. He put his best effort in, and there was just no play to be made at home. Now Contreras, he leads off first following the RBI single, and here's a left-handed pitcher, Christian Yelich. Throwing over to first there is Liberatore. Back in time is Contreras. Christian Yelich through 22 games, 250, 3 home runs, 13 RBIs. Now here's the first pitch. Up and in a sinker, 95 miles per hour. Clear, misses the zone, and the count is now 1-0 strikes to Milwaukee's cleanup hitter here. It's a lefty-lefty matchup with the lefty Liberatore on the mound. Here's the 1-0 pitch. Fouled down the third base side and out of play on a slider up in the zone at 87 miles an hour. And the count is now 1-1. Coming set is Liberatore. The 1-1 pitch. Swinging strike on the slider down and away. And that brings the count to 1-2 strikes. Liberatore is back on the bump. He comes set. Now here's the 1-2 pitch. Chop foul towards the Brewers on deck circle on the slider down and away. The count remains 1-2. Dixon, Missouri, back in the chat, back for the game mic call. Thank you so much, Q-Man. Coming set is Liberatore, and here's the pitch. Up and in, a four-seam fastball, 95 miles per hour, and that evens out the count to 2-2 strikes. Not altogether, so far, the best start by Liberatore, but he's looking to limit the damage right here. He comes set at the Birds. He deals. Hit on out to the left center field, heading on over in front of the track, in front of the wall, and it is gone. A two-run home run by Christian Yelich, and that'll put the Brewers ahead 3-0 here in the bottom of the first inning. So a very tough start so far by Matthew Liberatore. He's only been able to record the single out, that strikeout to Terang. Otherwise, he has been hit reasonably hard, in addition to issuing that leadoff walk, which is always death. Yeah, that one was clear out by Yelich. You do not miss in the strike zone with him. I think that is something that all of us can reasonably know and understand at this point, having him watch hit against the Cardinals now for so many years. So now there is nobody on, one out, bottom of the first inning. It is 3-0 Milwaukee in the bottom of the first inning with only one out. Not the start Liberatore had envisioned coming into today. Now Liberatore winds and deals to Vaughn. Upstairs and away on the changeup, 88 miles per hour, clear out of the zone. The count is now 1-0. And yes, Gordon, there is still plenty of baseball left to be played. Now, here's the 1-0 pitch. On a check foul ball, on a check swing on a cutter away, that'll even up the count to 1-1. Now, here's the 1-1 pitch. Strike, changeup, inside corner, thigh high. Odd placing for a changeup to a major league hitter, but he gets away with it. The count is now 1-2. Yes, happy Memorial Day, everybody. Audrey Vaughn, 298, 1 home run, 7 RBIs through 15 games. Here's a 1-2. Curveball down and in. Clear, misses the zone. Evens out the count to 2 balls and 2 strikes. From the full wind is Liberatore. Here's the 2-2 to Vaughn. Swinging strike 3 on the Uncle Charlie, down and in for the second out of the inning. So he comes back now with a quick strikeout of the 5-hitter. He's thrown 27 pitches so far in this opening frame. So a way to bounce back. Both teams appear to be wearing a poppy patch above their left breast on their uniforms. Here's the first pitch. Strike to Rengifo, four-seam fastball on the outer third, a little above the knees. The count is now 0-1. Lefty-righty matchup with the righty Rengifo. Here's the pitch. Hit to left field, and he is going to play it on the hop is Torres. So that's a 2-out single there by the third baseman Rengifo. And the bottom of the first shall march on from here. So a disappointing start here by Matthew Liberatore. That one looked like a flat slider down and in, right about 89 miles per hour. That is the last place you want to put a flat slider. Now here is the 7-hitter, the righty Perkins, leading off first. He throws over to first. Back in time is Rengifo. So far this season, Blake Perkins out in center field through 30 games. He's hitting 102, no home runs, 7 RBIs, a 350 OPS. That's some light hitting. Here's a pitch. Going down to second is Rengifo. Throw down to second, and he is thrown out. Throwing him out at second is Pajes for the third and final out of the inning. However, it's a 3-spot by the Brewers. They have themselves a 3-0 lead heading to the top of the second inning. It is 3-0 Brewers after one full up at Miller Park. I'm Paul D. Thank you so much for spending part of your Memorial Day with me and some Redbird baseball. Hopefully they can get back into this game. And you are watching or listening to Bombers Game Mic. Let us go to the chat. All right. Warren Mizorowski, 0 earned runs, 4.3 pitches per out. 78 pitches to 18 outs. Liberatore, 30 earned runs, 10 pitches per out, 180 pitches to 18 outs. That is rough, but it's still early. He can turn it around. Thank you for calling the stadium Miller Park. Well, consider it my pleasure indeed. As far as I'm concerned, all these new ballparks, most of them, Yankee Stadium being a solid exception because they just can't get away with it. Not that they wouldn't. They simply can't afford the PR firestorm of calling it Yankee Stadium at Walmart Plaza or something like that. But when you have a sponsor like Miller and you've had it be Miller Park for basically, 2.5 decades almost, that's a pretty good name. I mean, the Cardinals have part of a beer name, with the Busch family obviously leaving out the Anheuser part. So clearly we know all about that. Yeah, AmFam Field. I can't even get on board for that. I can only call it Miller Park. And I got to say, Miller Park, I've been there 3 times, and it's a really good experience. Last time I was there, Bob Uecker was still obviously alive and very much calling games. And it was the only ballpark in the majors where I could go use the bathroom and have the whole experience narrated by Bob Uecker. That's a special thing. A very special thing. Now here's Nolan Gorman. Through 49 games, hitting .222 with 6 home runs and 25 RBIs. Mizorowski, he comes set. Here's the first pitch. Up and away, four-seam fastball at 100 miles per hour. The count is 1-0. I'm sure it's a good insurance company. It's just a bad name for a baseball stadium, especially when it had been called Miller Park, which is a vastly superior name as far as I'm concerned. Here's the 1-0. Swinging strike on the four-seam fastball on the outer third thigh high, 101 miles per hour from Mizorowski. And the count is now 1-1. Mizorowski, he comes set. He always pitches from the stretch. Here's the 1-1 pitch. Inside a slider, down and in, 97 miles per hour, but out of the zone. And the count is 2-1 to Nolan Gorman, who's Cardinal gray top today, and they're wearing the traditional gray road jersey with the red ball caps and helmets. Is all dirty from his dive at third. Here's the pitch. Foul back behind the plate and out of play on a four-seam fastball right down Broadway at 101 miles per hour. And the count goes to 2 balls and 2 strikes. Once again, let me know how you're spending your Memorial Day. Where are you watching or listening from? Join the Game Mike roll call. Here's the 2-2. Swinging strike 3. Down goes Gorman for the first out of the inning. So far, Mizorowski in his 1 1/3 innings pitched has been fairly overpowering. Now here is the right-handed hitting shortstop Mason Wynn, who's 240 on the year. This is his first at-bat this afternoon. One out here in the top of the second inning. Coming set is Mizorowski. He deals. Strike inside corner below the belt, 102 mile per hour four-seam fastball, and the count is now 0-1. Absolutely cracked that first beer of the day to Redbird Baseball and America here on Memorial Day. Thank you so much for joining me. Coming set is Mizorowski. Here's the 0-1. Strike, an absolute BB on the outside corner thigh high. Looking back at the home plate umpire is Mason Wynn. He thought it missed the plate, but he does not challenge it. That's a good question. I'll address that in a moment. Now here comes the 0-2 pitch. Hit on up the middle. Right there is the second baseman Terang. He throws to first in time for the second out of the inning. So Terang there was clearly shaded up right up against second base, came charging in on the outfield grass, got it on a couple of hops, threw across his body to get Mason Wynn there for the second out of the inning. Well, Spice Muffins, I'll get to that in a moment. Now here's the 28-year-old rookie, the left fielder Brian Torres, the left-handed hitter, hitting .375 through 2 games so far. He has a big wide open stance. Now here's the first pitch. Swinging strike, four-seam fastball on the outer third, 101 miles per hour. Count is 0-1. That's the rising action that he gets on that four-seamer in the zone. So you can't lay off it because it'll be a called strike, but you try to square it up and you miss it then too. Here's the 0-1. Swinging strike, four-seam fastball on the outer third, just above the knees. Same deal. Four-seam fastball, 102 miles an hour. And the count is now no balls and 2 strikes. Coming set is Mizorowski. Here's the 0-2 to Torres. Swinging strike 3. He strikes out the side, and 1, 2, 3 go the Redbirds. No runs, no walks, nobody left on. We head to the bottom of the second inning. It is 3-0 Brewers up there at Miller Park in southern Wisconsin. I'm Paul D. Thank you so much for spending part of your Memorial Day with me and my call of Redbird Baseball. I wouldn't have it any other way. And you are watching and listening to Bombers Game Mike. Let's take a look at the chat. Paul, have you considered showing the 3D gameplay view like Dr. DeLay does? Okay. So, I know he does it, and I'll get to you just in a moment, Q-Man, believe me. And I believe Braves Country Radio does it. Here's the thing. I'm not 100% sure how they do it. I've been doing some research on that. If you were in the chat for Game 2 of the doubleheader the other night, Dr. DeLay made a cameo appearance there in the chat, which was actually pretty cool. And at some point, if I can't figure it out myself, I'll just, get his attention on Twitter/X or whatever the hell they're calling it now, and see if I can get his attention and be able to ask, because honestly, I don't know. At some point, I might just, and this is interesting that you can do this, I might actually have ChatGPT look at it and see if it can figure it out. It's actually really good with that kind of stuff when you put in a link there and you ask it, how are they doing this? So I might go that route first because it's the route of least resistance. But I'll look into it, see if it makes sense. I'm not actually a huge fan of it, even though I want to know how it, at the very least, how it works. Now here's Matthew Liberatore. He's out for his second inning of work. It is 3-0 Brewers. No, I was not aware of that, but let me get to the rest of that. Here's the first pitch. Downstairs, a four-seam fastball, 92 miles per hour to the righty Perkins, who, of course, is back up at bat after the caught stealing there that ended the bottom of the first. From the full wind, here's the 1-0. Up and away, four-seam fastball out of the zone, 93 miles per hour. And that'll bring the count to 2-0. Ollie Marmol is, of course, giving his classic expressionless face in the dugout. Here's a 2-0 pitch. Sinker strike. BB on the outside corner at the knees. And that brings the count to 2-1 strike. That is interesting. That is a fun fact. Here's the pitch. Swinging strike on a changeup up and into the righty Perkins. Once again, not exactly where you want to go with that thing to a major league hitter, but he's gotten away with it twice. Beautiful 80-degree day in Milwaukee. Great for baseball. Yes, indeed. Absolutely. Couldn't ask for more. Now, here's the 2-2 pitch. Swinging strike, 3 on the slider, down and in. And that is the first out of the inning. And hopefully that is a sign that Matty Boy on the mound there is starting to settle down. So nobody on, 1 out, bottom of the second inning. It's 3-0 Brewers here. Up at Miller Park, here's the 8-hitter, the lefty hitting Mitchell. Lefty-lefty matchup. Here's the pitch. Slider down and away for a ball, 87 miles per hour. The count is 1-0. Yeah, he probably is using a browser source. Here's the 1-0. Foul down the third base side and out of play, and the count goes to 1-1. But I still have to find the source, to even potentially use it as a browser source. So that's also part of it as well. Various technical challenges along the way. Now here's the 1-1 pitch. Up and in, a sinker out of the zone. Count is 2-1. That was at 94 miles per hour. I have never been to Summerfest. No, I've heard about it, though. Here's a 2-1. Hit on up the middle, and it is through, but picked up by Mason Wynn. He can't get it up out of his glove. He manages to stop it. He never would have had to play it first, despite how Herculean and impressive the effort was, even to get it into his glove on 2 hops there in shallow center field. So he's showing off his range at shortstop. Tucson, Arizona, entering the chat. Thank you for spending your Memorial Day, or a part of it at the very least, with me here today. Coming set at the Birds is Liberatore. Runner leads off first. Here's a pitch. Swinging strike on a changeup away to the righty 9-hitter Ortiz. That brings the count to 0-1 strike. Beautiful day here in Illinois. People are mowing their grass and cooking outside. Americana that I have been so fond of my entire life. That feels like home, an image of home. Coming set here at the Birds is Liberatore. Here's a pitch. Swinging strike on the four-seam fastball up and away, 93 miles per hour, and that brings the count to 0-2. Missed you yesterday. Roger Baseman. Well, hey, I missed you too, and everybody else who has been so kind to spend part of their days here with me. Now, here's the pitch. Curveball inside and off the plate. The count is now 1-2 strikes to the righty Ortiz. And the count's 1-2. Runner leads off first. It is the bottom of the second inning. It is 3-0 Brewers. Now, here's the pitch. Hit to the left side and foul on a curveball down and in. Kathy Thomas, we all did. Well, first off, that's an amazing compliment that you missed me as part of your day. I got to tell you, I missed you guys too. I was really disappointed by that rainout. I have so much fun doing this. You can't even imagine. Here's a 1-2. Swinging strike 3. Down here, Ortiz goes for the second out of the inning. The thing is with the 3D animation of the game, you're right. They probably are using a browser source, but it lags very considerably. And, well, I know that the strike zone graphic there I get from Game Day is a little ahead of the action because the stream is a little behind it. Curveball up and away to Jackson Churio. The count's 1-0. Even though the strike zone here from Game Day as a browser source does get a little ahead of the action, considering that the actual feed is behind, it lags well behind the action. Here's 1-0. Throwing down to second. He tries to take second. Here's the throw, and he is called out. He is called out at second. So for the second inning in a row, the third out is recorded by a caught stealing on the part of Pages. So down go the Brewers, and we head to the top of the third inning. It is 3-0 Milwaukee up at Miller Park. I'm Paul D., and thank you once again so much for joining me here as part of your Memorial Day. If you're enjoying this stream, you like what I do, please leave a like. It's always greatly appreciated. It helps the channel out immensely. And if you're new, or if you're returning and not subscribed, please do. You'll know when the games happen. Yesterday was a bit of an anomaly with the rain delay, and then they called it. I didn't think they were going to call it. I think they were going to hang around to play that game. But I forget who put it in the chat. I think it was Zodiac C that said, with the day game today, they're probably just going to push it back somewhere later. At first, I wasn't sure because of the lack of really good common off days between the Cardinals and the Reds between yesterday and the rest of the year. But that's what happened. But for the most part, if you have, the notification bell clicked and you have push notifications on YouTube, you'll know about 30 minutes ahead of time. I try to schedule these things at least a couple hours in advance. It is pretty cool, but for reasons like you shared, I believe it is somewhat overrated. Yeah, that is a little glitchy, too. It's not very smooth. I mean, I would explore it, just doing due diligence as a presenter here to see if it could really make sense. But all I can do, really, is judge it on my experience as a member of the audience, in which case I have deeply mixed feelings on it, almost as if it's a technology that hasn't fully matured yet. So, we'll see. Has the pitching coach come out yet? Actually, yeah, I think he did in the first inning just to calm Liberatore down. Dwayne Smith. Hey, thank you for joining the chat. Thank you for spending part of your Memorial Day with me. And coming set is Ollie Marmol. And here's the first pitch up and in to Pages for a ball. Four-seamer at 100 miles an hour. Yeah, let's get some run back. Let's get some runs back. All about that. Coming set is Mizorowski. Here's the 1-0. Strike, four-seam fastball dotted on the outside corner, thigh high. That brings the count to 1-1. 26 pitches so far for Mizorowski in this outing. It's a righty-righty matchup with the righty Pages. Here's the 1-1. Swinging strike, four-seam fastball on the outer third, about thigh high. Swung underneath that one, did Pages. And the count is now 1-2 to the Cardinal catcher this afternoon. Doing his split duty behind the plate that he shares with Ivan Herrera. Coming set is Mizorowski. It's a 1-2 count. And he deals. Swinging strike three on the four-seam fastball up and in. 102 miles per hour. And that's the first out of the top of the third inning. So Mizorowski is doing largely what we expected him to do. At least so far. You like the 25? Yeah, I'm wearing my Big Mac jersey here today. Now, here's Victor Scott II, center fielder. 49 games, 197, 2 home runs, 7 RBIs. Had a pretty decent doubleheader back on Saturday. Here's a pitch. Strike, four-seam fastball out of third below the belt. And that brings the count to 0-1. Another triple-digit four-seamer. Well, number 27 was also pretty great, too. I'm glad he's doing well now with his new team out there in Arizona. Nobody out, one on. Here's the 0-1. Strike, slider right down Broadway at 97 miles per hour. Once again, a 97-mile-per-hour slider. That's as weird to say as it is to see. And the count is now no balls and 2 strikes. Coming set is Mizorowski. Here's the 0-2 pitch. Called strike 3 on a curveball on the outside corner at the knees for the second out of the inning. So a couple of more punch-outs here. One swinging, one in the observatory here in the top of the third. And that'll be 2 outs here in the top of the third with nobody on. You're like number 27. Well, thank you so much for being like number 27. I try to earn each and every one of them. Now here's J.J. Weatherall. He walked earlier. Here's the pitch. Strike, four-seam fastball right down Broadway. Swung underneath that one on the four-seam fastball at 102. And the count is 0-1 to J.J. He walked in his first at-bat. That has been the only Cardinal base runner so far here today. Coming set is Mizorowski. Here's the 0-1. Strike, four-seam fastball right down Broadway. 103 on the gun. And that brings the count to no balls and 2 strikes with nobody on and 2 out here in the top of the third. Coming set is Miz. Here's the 0-2. Fouled down the third base side and out of play on the four-seam fastball up and away, 102. Come on, Cards. I hate the Brewers. There's definitely history there. Coming set is Mizorowski. Here's the 0-2. Down and in a curveball, 89 miles per hour. Picked it up out of the dirt there, did Contreras. That brings the count to 1-2. And JJ usually puts together a really solid at-bat. But this is a particularly tough assignment. Righty-lefty matchup. Here's the 1-2 pitch. Called strike 3 on the inside corner at the knees for the final out of the inning. So Mizorowski, he strikes out the side. No hits, no runs, nobody left on. We head to the bottom of the third inning. 3-0 Milwaukee after 2.5. I'm Paul D. Thank you all so much for joining me here, whether you are new or returning. It really is a real pleasure and quite a compliment that you've chosen to spend part of your Memorial Day with me. And with that in mind, me here, you there, and this is Bombers Game Mike. Let's go to the chat. Try Kysander Kerr. Try.
One moment. Oh, boy.
Try. Kais. I know who you are, and you know who I am. We've communicated briefly through comments. I have hated the Brewers since the Randall Simon incident. The move to the National League. Yeah, even for me. And they've been in the National League for some time now. I still think of them as an American League team, just like I occasionally catch myself thinking that the Astros are a National League team. Happens to the best of us. Trisk I Deca. Okay, we'll just go with Trisk. That's cool with me. I appreciate you giving me the life raft with that. Yeah, I understand. Now here's the first pitch to Jackson Chourio. Fouled out down first base and out of play. The count is 0-1. Jackson Chourio, of course, is back up to bat following the caught stealing that ended the bottom of the second. It's an 0-1 count. Liberatore from the full line. Lefty-righty matchup. Here's the pitch. Hit down into left field, and it is looks like a fair ball. No, it is not. It is indeed ruled a foul ball. Just missed the line. It almost looked like it could have gotten a piece of the chalk, but apparently not. So a nice break there for Matthew Liberatore against Jackson Chourio, and the count goes to 0-2. 13 Ks for the Miz. I'm calling it. And at the rate he's going, who am I to say otherwise? He's on his game today. If that guy can stay healthy, oh man, he's going to be a force. Here's the 0-2. Hit on down the first base side, now to play on the curveball in on the hands. Jackson Chourio. The count remains 0-2. I'm headed out. You all have a wonderful day. Go Cards. Goran, as always, thank you so much for joining us. Enjoy the rest of your Memorial Day. Here's the 0-2. Swinging strike 3 on a 4-seam fastball up and away for the first out of the inning. So right there, he manages to get Jackson Chourio to swing underneath a fastball up and away, about a mid-90s four-seamer. That's the first out of the inning. Astros moved to the National League because they couldn't get past the Redbirds. And they're cheaters now anyway. I'll sign up for that narrative. Here's the first pitch, Turang. Swinging strike, four-seam fastball on the outer third, about thigh high. The count is 0-1. Well, yeah, they moved from the National League to the American League. Now they can't escape the Cardinals, but they only have to face them once a year. Never in the playoffs. Here's the pitch. Up and away, four-seam fastball out of the zone. Count is 1-1, with the exception of a hypothetical World Series, of course. I think Detmers threw 14 Ks for the Angels last night. Oof. Here's the 1-1. Curveball down and away, floated right over the righty batter's box, brings the count to 2-1 against Bryce Turang, who himself is 0 for 1 this afternoon. They got a nice drone shot there going the outside of Miller Park with the dome open. A nice clamshell. Here's the pitch. Check swing. He down around on the counter, down and away. And that brings the count now to 2 balls and 2 strikes. It's a 2-2 count from the full winds. Liberatore. Here's the pitch. Just off the plate with a sinker. It was thigh high, but definitely missed the plate. Count is 3-2. I think Liberatore was hoping to get the punch out on that one. No dice yet. From the full wind, lefty-lefty, the pitch. Foul back behind the plate and out of play on a four-seam fastball on the lower outside corner. And count remains 3-2. So once again, if you're just joining me here, it's 3-0 Cardinals. A 3-spot against Liberatore in the bottom of the first. And Jacob Mizorowski is doing Mizorowski things, as the kids might say. Lefty-lefty matchup. It's a full count from the full wind. Here's the 3-2. Called strike 3 on a slider right down Broadway. Here's the second out of the inning, giving us the old backward K, baseball's impression of Cyrillic, for the second out of the inning. Oh, the Yankees could more than handle the beer and the cheese. They feasted on it for many years. Here's the pitch. Foul back and out of play. Four-seam fastball, 95 miles per hour. The count is 0-1. Besides, if the Yankees couldn't handle it, I mean, by this logic, shouldn't they have been the one that moved? Just saying. Now, here's the righty catcher, Contreras. It's an 0-1 count. I'm just having fun, of course. Now, here's the 0-1 pitch. Slider up and in, swung right underneath that one, did Contreras. And Liberatore is ahead in the count. No balls, 2 strikes. Nobody on, 2 out, bottom of the third inning, 3-0 Brewers. It's an 0-2 count to the righty 3-hitter, the catcher Contreras. Now here's the 0-2 from Liberatore. Foul down the first base side and out of play. And the count remains 0-2. So far, since the bottom of the first, Liberatore has started to bring it down, in addition to some very fine throws down to second base from Pages. Here's the pitch. Slider down and in the dirt, well out of the zone. That brings the count to 1 ball and 2 strikes. So Liberatore, in his last couple of appearances, I believe has given up 4 earned runs in each of those outings, none of which have gone longer than 5 innings pitched. Here's 1-2. Called strike 3 on Uncle Charlie right down Broadway. For the third and final out of the inning. Liberatore matches Mizorowski, striking out the side in the bottom of the third. And we head to the top of the fourth inning. It's 3-0 Milwaukee up in Miller Park here on Memorial Day, Cardinal baseball. And with that in mind, me here, you there, and this is Bombers Game Mike. So, all you can say at this point, really, is that Liberatore, in the 2 innings since, has definitely buckled down. The damage, of course, was done. There's no undoing that, at least not on his part. The Cardinals have to find a way to either, 1, hit Jacob Mizorowski, or 2, drive up his pitch count to get him out of this game as soon as possible. Oh, well, that's not entirely fair either. I mean, what about 2011? They routed the Brewers in the NLCS in 6 games. In fact, I'd argue in Game 6, they downright embarrassed the Brewers. And that's a better team than even the one we're seeing here today, with the exception of Mizorowski, who's just kind of a, an aberration in nature, I think it's fair to say. Very clean mechanics on his part. Very clean mechanics. No, but you have to respect the Brewers, whether you hate them or otherwise. $15 on St. Leo's. Payout $155. That might not be the worst underdog bet in the world, I'll say that. I don't gamble, and I do not hold anything against those who do. Individuals are free to make choices in their own life as they see fit as far as this guy here is concerned. But, even hypothetically, that underdog bet, putting up $15 to perhaps collect on 155, that's hard to turn down. Now here's Ivan Herrera. He struck out in his first at-bat. Here's the pitch. Strike, 4-seam fastball right down Broadway, 99 miles per hour. That downright counts is off speed. Once again, 0 for 1 with the strikeouts so far is Herrera. It's a righty-righty matchup. Here's the pitch. Just off the plate, a slider about thigh high. That brings the count to 1-1. Yeah. Now the payout is very good. Coming set is Mizorowski. Here's the 1-1. Strike right down Broadway, 4-seam fastball, 99 miles per hour. And the count is now 1 ball and 2 strikes. Nobody on, nobody out. Here's the leadoff hitter, Ivan Herrera. Here's the pitch. Called strike 3, the 4-seam fastball on the outer third, thigh high, and that'll be the first out of the inning. So 1 punch out after another so far by Mizorowski. He has 8 so far today in 3 1/3 inning of work. Let that sink in. Now here's Alec Burleson. He struck out in his first at-bat. Here's a pitch. Slider up and away out of the zone, 90 miles an hour. The count's 1-0. Yeah, he struck out swinging in that at-bat, trying to square up one of those 4-seam fastballs. It is a righty-lefty matchup. Here's the 1-0. Upstairs, a slider out of the zone, 94 miles per hour. The count is now 2 balls and no strikes to the slugging lefty-hitting first baseman for the Cardinals. Nobody on, 1 out. 3-0 in Milwaukee, top of 4. Here's the 2-0. Strike, 4-seam fastball right on the outside, black at the knees. That brings the count to 2 balls and 1 strike. That was the 43rd pitch recorded today in this outing for Jacob Mizorowski. He comes set. Here's a 2-1. Hit on out there to right center field, going back at the track. He's in front of the wall. He makes the catch for the second out of the inning. So undoubtedly, the best swing that has been put on a pitch from Jacob Mizorowski so far today came off the bat of Alec Burleson there. It just died out at the track. and is the second out of the inning. Now here's Jordan Walker. He's 0 for 1 with a ground out to third earlier. He's 301, 15 home runs, 42 RBIs through 50 games. Nobody on, 2 out here in the top of the fourth. Here's the first pitch. Down and away for a ball, a four-seamer at 101. And the count is now 1 ball and no strikes. Jordan Walker, he's like a ninja. He'll strike when you least expect it. Here's the 1-0. Swinging strike on the four-seam fastball, down and away. Swung underneath that one. Once again, that is at 101. And the count is now 1-1. Mizorowski, he comes set. He deals. Off the plate, a four-seam fastball. Nowhere near the zone. It's 1-0-2. The count is now 2 balls and 1 strike to the all-world right fielder for the Redbirds. Mizorowski comes set above the belt. And he deals. Chop foul, weakly over towards the Cardinal on deck circle. And that'll even out the count to 2 balls and 2 strikes. So Mizorowski is 1 strikeout away from ending this top of the 4th inning. Cardinals are doing whatever they can to work these at-bats against him, but it's not easy. He throws strikes, he throws quality strikes with movement and velocity. It's a very special combination. You can't help but respect it. Admire the ability and the professional execution, despite the fact, you want to hit him, hit a ball out into Lake Michigan. Time is granted by the home plate umpire at the behest of Jordan Walker. And the count is still 2 balls and 2 strikes. Mizorowski, he is waiting for his sign. He comes set above the belt, righty-righty matchup. Here's the 2-2. Just missed downstairs with the four-seam fastball down and in. 101 on that thing. And the count is now full, 3 balls and 2 strikes. Coming set is Mizorowski. He deals. Chop foul, actually hit secondarily once again off the nub on the bottom of Walker's back, and remains a full count. Nolan Gorman starting today at third. He's sitting on deck waiting for his turn. That was the 50th pitch so far from Mizorowski. And stepping back into the box is Jordan Walker. We have ourselves a full count. Nobody on, 2 out, full count. Top of the 4th inning, 3-0 Milwaukee. Coming set is Mizorowski. He deals. Check swing. Did he go around? Yes, says the home plate umpire for the 3rd and final out of the inning. So call that one a strikeout sinking. 2 more strikeouts so far by Mizorowski. It's 3-0 Brewers going to the bottom of the 4th inning. I'm Paul D. And despite how the game is going so far, if you're enjoying my call of the game here on Labor Day, please do leave a like. It helps a small growing channel out immensely. And if you like what you do and it's your first time here or you're returning and you've not subscribed and you want to see more, please do. It is absolutely appreciated. And I look forward to getting to know every one of you who puts themselves forward to make themselves known. And with that in mind, me here, you there, and this is Bombers Game Mike. 3-0 Milwaukee going to bottom of 4. Walker is more selective at the plate this year. Yeah, he is. The overall quality of his at-bats have improved immensely. He's more selective. His swing, obviously, he's way down on the strikeout rate. Huge deal. And something like 250 points better on his average OPS compared to both 24 and 25. So far, we're looking at a career that, so long as nothing weird happens to him or no sort of freak injury, has really turned the corner into, Cardinals superstar status, I have to think. Let me know where you're all watching or listening from here on this Memorial Day, and how are you spending this Memorial Day? With the exception of spending part of it with me, getting the call of Redbirds baseball. Let me know. Let me know. Matthew Liberatore, of course, will be heading out for his fourth frame of work, has really settled down here following his bottom of the first, where all 3 Milwaukee runs were recorded today. Now here's Liberatore against Yelich. Strike, four-seam fastball, almost down Broadway, right at the knees. The count is 0-1. Yelich, in his previous at-bat, hit a 2-run home run to left center field. That explains 2 of the 3 Brewer runs. Here's the 0-1. Curveball down the way and in the dirt. Counts 1-1. Tuning in from the North Georgia mountains. Hello from Appalachia. Thank you so much for joining me in the North Georgia mountains. Now, here's the 1-1. Curveball down and away out of the zone, 79 miles per hour. The count is 2-1. I am not old enough to remember that, unfortunately. Now, here's the 2-1. Up and in, a sinker strike. Swung right underneath that one, did Yelich, and that brings the count even to 2-2. That was the 66th pitch so far by Matthew Liberatore. He comes wind, and here's the 2-2. Foul down the third base side and out of play. Maybe the clock and robo umpire is benefiting him. Well, what I can definitely tell you is this. There are some pitchers that have really suffered under the pitch clock. Now here's the third pitch. Swinging strike 3. Down goes Yelich for the first out of the inning. That was a slider down and away. Swung right over the top of that one, did Yelich. A very nice slider down and away by Liberatore. Christian Yelich looked uncharacteristically bad in that at-bat, which does not happen often, like I think we've all come to know. Now here's the righty Vaughn. Here's the pitch. Strike, changeup down and away to the righty Vaughn. The count is 0-1. So some pitchers have suffered at the clock. Undoubtedly, others have benefited because they don't slow down when guys get on base. Here's the 0-1. Swinging strike on a curveball down and into Vaughn, and the count is now no balls and 2 strikes. Is there a chance for a comeback? Yeah, absolutely there's a chance for a comeback. There's a lot of innings left to play. Now, here's the 0-2 pitch. Check swing, did he go around? No, says Blue down the first baseline. Counts 1-2. And I should also mention that the umpires are also wearing their poppy patch in the upper left breast of their black polos here today. Here's the 1-2. Hit down the right side, and it is in for a base hit. It goes into the corner. Vaughn will ground first. He'll go to second, and he has himself a 1-out stand-up double in the bottom of the 4th inning. So he just put the bat on that thing. The pitch was down and away. He managed it to steer that thing fair, and then it went rattling around there in the corner for Jordan Walker to pick up, throw to the cutoff man, and the Brewers have themselves a 1-out double here in the bottom of the 4th. But yeah, absolutely have the chance. But you really have to keep the Brewers right here. Now here's the third baseman, the right-handed hitting Luis Rengifo. Runner leads off second. Here's the first pitch. Changeup down in the dirt, clear out of the zone, 89 miles an hour. The count's 1-0. Not the robo, but the challenge replay. I think I know what you're getting at. I've heard a lot of people call it the robo ump. Here's the 1-0. Upstairs, four-seam fastball, high, about letter high, and out over the plate. The count is 2-0 to Rengifo, who himself is 1 for 1 today with a single. He's hitting .204 on the year, no home runs, 14 RBIs. But he's been starting almost every day down there at third. Here's a 2-0. Hit on up there in the middle and into center field for a base hit. Playing it off a hop is Victor Scott. And that will move Vaughn to third. And so now the Cardinals are contending with runners on first and third and 1 out here in the bottom of the 4th. This is one of those times where the Cardinals could certainly use a heaven-sent double play ball to get out of this inning. Not a moment too soon. Now here's the righty Perkins. He's 0 for 1. He's out in right field today. Runners on first and third, one out in the bottom of the fourth inning. 3-0 Milwaukee up at Miller Park. Coming set at the Birds is Liberatore. Here's the first pitch. There it goes, and it's a throw to home on the ground ball to third. They have the runner, Vaughn, in a pickle, throwing back to third baseman, and he actually gets him for an out in the pickle at third. So Gorman manages to field it on a low hop. Coming home from third base was Vaughn. Gorman throws home to Pages, and they begin the pickle. Pages throws it back to Gorman, where he's able to apply the tag for the second out of the inning. A very fine play by both Gorman and Pages. That is the second out of the inning, and that puts runners on first and second with 2 out in the bottom of the fourth inning. Now here's the lefty Mitchell, who is 1 for 1 today. He got himself a single. He's hitting .231 with 2 home runs, 24 RBIs through 43 games. Coming set at the Birds is Liberatore. Here's the first pitch. Strike, sinker, dotted outside corner at the knees. The count is 0-1. So that was a very fine break here, but the job is not yet done for Liberatore and the Cardinals out in the field. Here's the 0-1. Swinging strike on the slider, down and away, swung right over the top of that one, did the lefty Mitchell. It is, of course, a lefty-lefty matchup. And the count is no balls and 2 strikes. Liberatore comes set at the stretch. Here's the 0-2. Just missed on the outside corner, knee high. It was certainly a ball, but it didn't miss by much, and no one's challenging it. The count is now 1-2 to Garrett Mitchell, who's out in center field today. Coming set at the stretch is Liberatore. Here's the pitch. Fouled straight back behind the plate and out of play on the four-seam fastball, 96 miles per hour. About letter high on Mitchell. And the count is now 1 ball and 2 strikes. Runners leave it off first and second with 2 out, bottom of the fourth. 3-0 Cardinals. It's a 1-2 count to the lefty Mitchell. Here's the pitch. Chop foul over towards the Brewer on deck circle on the curveball, down and away, and the count's 1-2. Let's go, folks. Hit that like button, and for goodness sake, subscribe. Thank you so much, Tree. Thank you so much. Now, here's the pitch. Called strike 3, slider outside corner at the knees for the third and final out of the inning. So Liberatore, following some clutch pitching and some excellent infield defense by the Cardinals, managed to get out of that jam. And with that, 1 hit, 2 left on, and nothing across. 3-0 Milwaukee going to the top of the 5th inning. I'm Paul D. Thank you so much for sharing part of your Memorial Day with me. And if you like what I do, please do leave a like. It makes a great deal of difference to a small and growing channel. And if you like it even more than that, hit subscribe. It'd be great to have you aboard. Plenty of Redbird baseball and competitive Redbird baseball left in 2026. And you are watching and listening to Bombers Game Mic. Let me pull up a note right here. Okay. Just getting my thoughts together there, of course. So we await the top of the 5th inning. Jacob Mizorowski so far has been quite impressive. So through 4 innings pitched, he has allowed no hits, clearly no runs, a single walk, which was the leadoff walk of the game to J.J. Weatherholt, and has accumulated 9 strikeouts so far. speaks for itself. Now here's Nolan Gorman leading it off, and here's the first pitch. Foul straight on back there and out of play on the four-seam fastball on the outer third at 100 miles an hour. And the count is now no balls and one strike. Right now, the Cardinals just desperately need to work that pitch count. Mizorowski so far through 4 innings has thrown 52. Here's the 0-1. Swinging strike on the inside corner, four-seam fastball, 99 miles per hour. And the count is now no balls and 2 strikes. He's definitely got it working. Coming set is Mizorowski. Here's the 0-2 pitch. Swinging strike 3, 100 miles per hour on the four-seam fastball up and away. Right underneath that one swinging was Gorman for the first out of the inning. That was the 10th strikeout today in 4 1/3 inning of work by Jacob Mizorowski. Now here's the righty hitting shortstop Mason Wynn. He's 0 for 1 with a ground out today. He's hitting .238 on the year with a home run. Here's the first pitch. Strike, four-seam fastball right down Broadway, 100 even, and the count is 0-1. Mizorowski comes set at the belt. The pitch. Slider down and away, clear miss the zone, 93 miles an hour, and the count is now 1-1 to Mason Wynn, who seems solidly back from what ailed him last week that kept him out of one of those games against Pittsburgh. Coming sets Mizorowski. He deals. Hit on out there to the first baseman. Tosses over to Mizorowski covering first in time for the second out of the inning. Let's get to this Brewers bullpen already. Sheesh. I know how you feel, friend. I know how you feel. Now, here is Brian Torres. It's his second at-bat. He struck out back in the first inning. And yes, I did mention no hits because it's happening to the Cardinals. If it were a Cardinal pitcher, I wouldn't have said a word. Now, here's the first pitch for Mizorowski. Off the plate, four-seam fastball, 101. The count is 1-0. No, believe me, I'll talk about it all day if the opposition is doing it. I want to jinx them. If it's a Redbird pitcher, very different story. Righty-lefty matchup with the lefty hitting Torres. Here's the pitch. Down and in, a four-seam fastball out of the zone, 101. And the count is now 2 balls and no strikes. Believe me, anything I can do to put a hex on the other team, I can assure you, I will do. Now here's the 2-0 pitch. Strike, four-seam fastball, 100 miles per hour, right down Broadway. The count is 2-1. Stepping in the box is Torres. Coming set is Mizorowski. He deals. Fouled straight back and behind the plate on the four-seam fastball, in on the hands at 100 miles per hour. And that evens out the count to 2 balls and 2 strikes. No, the Cardinals have one job right now, is to work this guy, but that is a tall order. He throws quality strikes. You can't help but respect it. Coming set is Mizorowski. And here's the 2-2. Foul back on the slider, in on the hands, 91 miles per hour. And the count remains 2 balls and 2 strikes. Torres, he's back in the box. Mizorowski's on the bump. Now here's the 2-2 pitch. Foul back on a four-seam fastball up and in, behind home plate, 102 miles per hour. Count remains 2-2. One of the best. To jinx it, you actually have to say the word. No hitter, no hitter, no hitter. There you go. I put the hex on. Now here's the 2-2. Hit to the left side and caught by Rengifo on a line. He makes a huge diving leap to get that ball to the hall at short for the third and final out of the inning. So, no hits, no walks, nobody left on. We head to the bottom of the 5th inning. It is 3-0 Brewers up in Miller Park. I'm Paul D, and this is Bombers Game Mic. Oh, don't worry. No hitter. I don't know if it's going to do any difference, unfortunately. But I can make you a solid promise. At any point where I am calling a game and a pitcher for the Cardinals is doing just this, I will never say the words. I may go, you know what's happening. I know what's happening, but neither of us are going to say what's happening because we both understand each other perfectly. That I might do. I've done that many times along with, what is this perfect game? Doesn't always work out. Worked out a couple of times with the David Wells and David Cone no-hitters in 98 and 99, but that was a long time ago. I can't believe that it was a long time ago. It wasn't even in this century. Showing your age, Paul, showing your age. But as an old mentor used to tell me, Paul, age is a sign of success. Cheers to you, Master Chief. I will see you next month. We await the bottom of the 5th inning. Thank you all so much for tuning in here this afternoon. I hope you're enjoying your Memorial Day, wherever and however you may be enjoying it. And the fact that you're doing part of it with me is no small thing. All right, we are here for the bottom of the 5th inning. And the righty Ortiz is up. Here's the first pitch from Liberatore. Off the plate for a ball. The count is 1-0. We should have went to see Dave. I will get to you, sir, in a moment. Here's the 1-0 pitch. Foul down the first base side and out of play. On a changeup down and away, counts 1-1. So the fellow who has uncharacteristically entered the chat here, I don't know if he's ever entered a chat since he turned 20 years old. Here's a 1-1. Strike, four-seam fastball down and in at the knees to the righty Ortiz. The count is 1-2. It's a lefty-righty matchup. Nobody on, nobody out. Bottom of the 5th inning, 3-0 Brewers. Is none other than my younger brother. And if you look at that last name there, you found out mine. Here's the pitch. Hit to the left side and through the hole for a base hit. So a lead-off single here by Ortiz to start the bottom of the 5th for the Brewers. Well, it's a little personal history time regarding perfect games, and specifically the one that David Wells threw in the May of 1998. What is the pitcher's win-loss record? I think Liberatore is 4-4, and Mizorowski might be 4-2. That's off the top of my head. Here's the pitch. Hit there up the middle. Fielded by Mason Wynn on a couple hops. He steps on second one. On to first. Not in time. So Jackson Trio beats the relay throw. However, that does mean the first out recorded here in the bottom of the 5th. So my brother, and hello, Robert. Thank you for joining me, Covetous. He and I were in New York City in May of 1998 on that famous Sunday where David Wells threw that perfect game against the Minnesota Twins at Yankee Stadium. And we were on our dad all day to go to the ballpark. Now here's Terang, files back and out of play and a cutter down in the way. The count is 0-1, including on the ride back from Manhattan, passing the very exit you would need to get off on to go and see a game at Yankee Stadium. He wasn't hearing any of it. Then we get home in the top of the 9th inning, and on the radio, we hear the last 2 outs of David Wells' perfect game. A perfect game we very easily could have been at had our dad heeded that call. We still will never let him down, and he knows it. Runner leads off first. It's an 0-1 count to Bryce Terang. Here's the pitch. He throws over to second, in fact, to Burleson. Trio is taking less than a 0 lead. So needless to say, that's something we've been a little bitter about over the last near 30 years. Runner leads off first. It's an 0-1 count. Here's the pitch to Terang. Up and in, a sinker, 94 miles an hour. The count is 1-1. And Robert, thank you so much for joining the stream here. I take it our beloved father sent you the link. I'm not being sarcastic. We love our dad. He's great. Coming set is Liberatore at the Birds. Here's the 1-1. A slider down in the dirt away, blocked by Pajes. Staying right there at first is Jackson Chourio. The count goes to 2-1. We're gonna win this. It's gonna be painful for the Brewers after a Mizorowski gem. From your mouth to God's ears, man. Coming set at the Birds. Here's the pitch. Foul back behind the plate and out of play on a four-seam fastball on the outer third at 95 miles per hour, which will even out the count at 2-2. So needless to say, when it comes to David Wells' perfect game, for my brother and myself, it was the journey not taken and lamented for the next 3 decades and everyone going forward. Here's a 2-2. Foul back behind the plate and out of play on a sinker right down Broadway, 95 miles per hour. And the count still remains 2-2 strikes. Yeah, Liberatore has quite a few strikeouts so far. In fact, he has 10. Coming set is Liberatore. Here's the 2-2 to Terang. Just missed off the plate, challenged immediately by Pajes, and I think he has an absolute case here. So we'll await the result of the ABS challenge, and it's strike 3 called. Down goes Terang for the second out of the inning. Some very fine pitching there by Liberatore, following that single by Chourio. That's 2 outs here in the bottom of the 5th. So Jackson Chourio is still on first, and Liberatore still moved to St. Louis area, to Pikes Peak, Colorado. A native who moved to Pikes Peak, Colorado. Cheers to you. Thank you for joining the chat. Thank you for spending part of your Memorial Day with me. Now, here's the righty hitting Contreras in the 3-hole. He's 1 for 2 today. Runner leads off first. Here's a pitch. Hit down the third base line and out of play, and the count is 0-1 strike. David Hodge, the Cardinals, I notice, always have a hard time the first game of the series. It's always a challenge when you're getting refreshed against a new opponent, especially when they have quality pitching. Coming set. Here's the pitch. Up and in, a four-seam fastball out of the zone, 95 miles per hour. The count is now 1-1 strike. Liberatore has his sign. Here's the 1-1. Uncle Charlie down and in, going towards second is Chourio. He throws down to second, does it Pajes. It gets away, and he goes to third on the overthrow. Well, it's not an overthrow. It simply got past Mason Wynn there. So moving from first to third is Jackson Chourio. The pitch is called a ball. Down and in to Contreras. And that was Weatherholt, couldn't get the throw that was actually on a hop, went into center field, fielded there by Victor Scott. So a runner on third with 2 out and a 2-1 count here to Contreras, who himself is 1 for 2 today. It's a 2-1 count and a lefty-righty matchup. Here's a 2-1. Swinging strike on the curveball down and in. That was a nasty Uncle Charlie. That thing dropped at least anywhere between 16 and 18 inches. Had to swing right over the top of that thing. And the count is now 2-2 strikes. Chourio, he leads off third. Coming set at the Birds is Liberatore. Here's the 2-2. Curveball in the dirt. Down and in. Was not remotely close to the zone. And the count is now full 3-2 to Contreras. That was the 98th pitch so far by Liberatore today. Doesn't look like he's going to go much further than the 5th inning. Now with a pitch count like that. Coming set is Liberatore. He deals. Ball 4 on the four-seam fastball, missed on the inside corner. So now runners on first and third with 2 out in the bottom of the 5th. It's 3-0 Milwaukee. Stepping back into the box is Christian Yelich, the left-handed hitter. He's hitting cleanup. He has a 2-run home run today and a strikeout swinging on a very nasty slider down and away from Liberatore. He is going to be a genuinely challenging out. He is a premier hitter in Major League Baseball. Coming set is Liberatore. Here's the first pitch to Yelich. Strike, slider outside corner, thigh high. And the count is no balls and 1 strike. 30 pitches in the first, 15 in the second, 17 in the third, 20 in the fourth, and 18 so far here in the 5th frame. Here's the 0-1. Hit to the right side. Fielded there on a couple hop by Weatherholt. Throws to first in time for the 3rd and final out of the inning. So Liberatore manages to get out of that jam. The Brewers, they leave 2. We head to the top of the 6th inning. It's 3-0 Brewers up at Miller Park here on this Monday afternoon of Memorial Day Redbird baseball. And if you're enjoying what I'm doing, please do leave a like. Helps a young and small channel grow immensely. The algorithm notices these things, the almighty algorithm. You know, might do a rain dance later, see if I can squeeze a little more out of it. A proverbial rain dance, I should say. And if you like the way I call games, hit subscribe with the notification bell. You'll know 30 minutes ahead of time, so long as you have push notifications on for YouTube. And with that in mind, me here, you there, and this is Bombers Game Mike, 3-0 Milwaukee. Let's go to the chat. Q-Man. In the 70s Cards/Mets game, lasted 17 innings, pitcher Claude Osteen threw a perfect 9 innings, gets a no decision, but as I recall, Cards got the win. For those perfect innings, he just mowed them down. God, you know, that reminds me of when Pedro Martinez did something very similar to that in 93, I think, when he was first pitching for the Expos. It was in, I think, a Sunday night game in San Diego, the old Jack Murphy / Qualcomm. And he actually pitched starting the 10th inning, so I think he technically had 9 1/3 innings pitched. Kind of reminds me when Mark Mulder threw, I think, a 10-inning complete game for opening day in 05 or 06 for the Cardinals. Does anybody else remember that? All right, we are here for the top of the 6th inning. 0-0-1 Cardinals, 3-7-0 Brewers. Mizorowski has been as good as advertised so far. Now here's the righty Pages. Here's the pitch. Strike, four-seam fastball outside corner, thigh high. Just dotted that one, triple digits. And the count is 0-1. Time is granted by the home plate umpire at the behest of Pages. Cardinals like to make games interesting. We're winning this game late. I hope you are right. Now, here's the 0-1 from Mizorowski. Check swing on a curveball down and away. Did he go? Yes, says Blue down to the first baseline, and that brings the count to no balls and 2 strikes. Right now, Jacob Mizorowski is absolutely filthy. He is absolutely dealing here. Here's the 0-2 pitch. Slider down and away and in the dirt. Saved there by Contreras. Counts 1-2. Pages, he's the leadoff hitter here. Nobody on, nobody out. Top of the 6th inning, 3-0 Brewers. Comes set is Mizorowski. Here's the 1-2. Hit on out there to shallow right field, giving chase to the second baseman, and it falls in for a base hit. So there goes the no-hitter, thanks to the bloop single in shallow right field. Dare I say a Texas leaguer on the part of Pages. You knew he was the one that was going to break it up, too. You just knew it. I may not have said it, but I was thinking, you know, if there's one guy in this lineup who's going to break up this no-hitter, it's going to be Pages. Now, here's Victor Scott II, who's over 1. Pages, he leads off first. Here's a pitch. Strike, four-seam fastball, outside corner below the belt. That brings the count to 0-1. So, no more Mizorowski no-hitter. And there's an ABS challenge on this one. And the called strike is upheld. So the Cardinals lose the first of their 2 allotted ABS challenges in regulation. Coming set is Mizorowski. It's a righty-lefty matchup. Pages leads off first. Here's the 0-1. Swinging strike on the four-seam fastball right down Broadway. Swung right underneath that one, did Scott. 99 miles per hour. And the count is 0-2. Yes, I did jinx it. And now I am under the delusion that I have some ability to influence the outcome of this game. Coming set is Mizorowski. Here's the 0-2. Foul down the third base side and out of play. A four-seam fastball up and away. 100 miles an hour. And the lefty Mouts, Bryson Mouts, who was going to be the spot starter yesterday for Liberatore, is getting hot down in that Cardinal bullpen. Looks like his first appearance is going to be in relief. Now here's the 0-2 from Mizorowski. Hit to the right side, fielded there by Trang. He throws to second one. On to first, no throw. No throw. Pages manages to break that up. So Victor Scott there is on first. He reaches on the fielder's choice. There is 1 out in the top of the 6th inning. And we head back to the top of the lineup with the lefty J.J. Weatherholt for his 3rd at-bat of the day. Oh, look at that. Saturday, June 6th, it's the Jim Edmonds Wall Catch Bobblehead Night at Busch Stadium. That might be worth going to. Now, here is Weatherholt. He's 0 for 1 with a walk. Here's the pitch. Up and away, four-seam fastball, 98 miles per hour, nowhere near the zone. Count is 1-0. So, 2 base runners so far. I guess technically 3, if you count the fielder's choice on that one. Coming sets Mizorowski. Throws over to first. Back in time is Vic Scott. And the count is 1 ball, no strikes. Vic Scott, he leads off first. It's a righty-lefty matchup with the lefty hitting Weatherholt in the box. Here's the pitch. Inside, well inside, four-seam fastball, triple digits. Had to slightly get out of that way, get out of the way of that one. Did Weatherholt. Victor Scott, he leads off first. Weatherholt comes set in the box. Here's a 2-0 pitch. Foul down the third base side and out of play on the four-seam fastball, 99 miles an hour. And the count is now 2 balls and 1 strike. It's the curse of the dry tap. Should still be, oh goodness, that is hilarious. Okay, I'll get back to that in a moment, Robert. Hold on a second. Here's a 2-1. Inside four-seam fastball, 98 miles an hour. Okay. Classic younger brother time. It's the curse of the dry tap. Should still be Miller Park. I'm going on record that I'm stealing that one right now, and as should everybody here watching this game. Here's the 3-1. Hit to the right side and through the hole for a base hit into right field. So a 1-out single there by J.J. Weatherholt. Moving all the way to third is Victor Scott, and they finally got a little something cooking here on the top of the 6th against Jacob Mizorowski. On that 1-out single there by J.J. that just finds the hole between the first and second baseman, which was a very tight hole to take advantage of. And runners are now on first and third with 1 out. Curse of the dry tap. Curse of the dry tap. And here's the DH today. Ivan Herrera, he's 0 for 2 with a pair of strikeouts. Always dangerous. But you have to remember, Jacob Mizorowski is always pitching from the stretch. So unless they're able to distract him on the base pass, which is not an impossibility, the mechanics for him really don't change. Now here's the first pitch to Herrera. Fouled straight on back on the four-seam fastball up and in, 100 miles an hour. The count is 0-1. You kind of get the feeling Herrera wanted that one back. You can see it by the grin on his face. He just missed that one. He has his big, wide-open righty stance. Here's the pitch. Down and away, four-seam fastball out of the zone. That brings the count to 1-1 strike. J.J. Weatherholt, he leads off first. Victor Scott, he leads off third. So 1-1 count to Ivan Herrera, who recently at bat has been tearing up the pea patch. Here's the 1-1. Hit towards the third baseman, charging in, coming home is Victor Scott, throws to first in time, but the run does score, and that will now make it a 3-1 Brewer lead. Oh, that was some nice bit of hitting there by Herrera. It was basically the equivalent of a swinging bunt, but it's good enough to get the run in from third. It is now 3-1 Brewers here in the top of the sixth inning. That was the 80th pitch so far for Jacob Mizorowski. Now here comes the lefty Burleson. He's 0 for 2. Here's the pitch. Hit on up the middle. Fielded there behind. Second is the shortstop. He throws to first in time for the third and final out of the inning. But with that said, the Cardinals, they claw one back. That's a hit, a couple of fielders' choices, an RBI, and a run scored. We head to the bottom of the sixth inning. It's now 3-1 Brewers going to the bottom of the sixth. I'm Paul D., and this is Bombers Game Mic. I'll take the chip away run. Absolutely. Absolutely. Here we go. THR Philly, my friend who's retired in Uganda. Thank you so much for joining us here today. Spice opens. Here we go, boys. Cheers, cheers, cheers to that. Jock Showell. Here we go. This is our inning. Yes, he is getting up there in pitches. Jock, he is getting up there in pitches. And you better believe they are going to protect their prized right arm. Their prized young right arm at that. Go Birds! Hey, 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 hey. Name explain. Old Patrick Charles Sidney. Old Patrick, my British co-host over at the AD History Podcast, and the UK's preeminent St. Louis Cardinal fan. Thank you for joining me here this evening for you. It's a late one. It's almost 9:15 for you. Thank you for tuning in from Southern England. One day I will make one call of this, brought to you via London and St. Louis, Missouri, like the podcast, but that's a different thing for a different day. Now, here is Mouts, who was supposed to get the spot start yesterday, the left-hander. He's 6'3", 190 pounds, 24 years old, been utterly tearing it up down there at AAA Memphis. And he is getting his shot. He was the Cardinals' minor league pitcher of the year last year. Here's the first pitch. Strike, four-seam fastball right down Broadway, 95 miles per hour. And the count is no balls and one strike. He's not immortal. He bleeds like we bleed Cardinal Red. Curveball down in the dirt and out of the zone, 81 miles per hour. And the count is now 1 ball and 1 strike. No, they're getting closer to finding a way to get to him. Coming set is Mouts. Here's the 1-1. Hit on out there to right field and in for a base hit. Fielded by Jordan Walker on the hop. So that'll be a leadoff single here against Mouts, who has yet to record his first big league out. As I was saying, though, he was the 2025 Cardinal minor league pitcher of the year. AAA so far, between AA and AAA, 8-5. An ERA of 2.96, 57 walks against 177 strikeouts. You can't ignore that. Now here is Rengifo for his third at-bat. Here's the pitch. Slider down the dirt. Keeping in front of him is Pages. And the runner appears to stay at first on that one, so the count is 1-0. Quite fortunate for Mouts and the Redbirds. So the righty third baseman, Rengifo, he's 2 for 2 this afternoon. Runner on first, there is nobody out. Coming set at the Birds is the lefty Mouts. Lefty-righty matchup. Here's the 4-0 pitch. Four-seam fastball up and away out of the zone. The count is now 2 balls and no strikes. I have not yet, no. I have not seen him yet. Coming set is Mouts. Here's the pitch. Foul back behind the plate and out of play on a four-seam fastball up and away, 93 miles per hour. And the count is now 2 balls and 1 strike. I know a lot of people are calling for Jimmy Crooks to get called up, but there's a serious logjam at catcher. Here's a 2-1. Strike, curveball, outside corner at the knees to the righty Rengifo from the southpaw Mouts. And the count is now 2-2. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Runner leads off first. Nobody out here in the bottom of the 6th inning. It's 3-1 Brewers. It's a 2-2 count to Rengifo. Coming set at the Birds is Mouts. Here's the pitch. In the dirt, gets away from Pajes. Moving up 90 feet is the runner on that thing. So he'll go up to second. And the count is now full. 3 balls and 2 strikes to Rengifo. And even though Pajes did a very fine job keeping it in front of him and not allowing it to be a wild pitch that got away, there was very little he could do about that thing once it rolled out of the dirt circle around home plate. It's a full count. Runner on second. Nobody out. Coming sets Mouts. Here's the 3-2. Ball 4 on the four-seam fastball, low and away. So now runners on first and second and nobody out here in the bottom of the 6th inning. Don't recall the year. Now here's the righty Perkins. He's 0 for 2 today. So Mouts, there's a big old discussion on the mound. The pitching coach is out to chalk with him. Big powwow out there on the mound. All the infielders are there. This looks like it definitely is not one of those meetings that could have been an email. Let's put it that way. You see quite a few of those in baseball, but this one could not have been an email. Runners on first and second, nobody out, bottom of the 6th inning. 3-1 Milwaukee up at Miller Park on this afternoon Memorial Day game for the St. Louis Cardinals. And thank you for joining me for a part of your Memorial Day right here. Looking in for the sign, Mouts, he's at the stretch. He's looking to get his pitch. Undoubtedly, he's trying to hear it through PitchCom. He's covering it with his glove to better hear the thing. Here's the first pitch to Perkins. Down and in for a ball. Four-seam fastball, 93 miles per hour. The count is 1-0. Right now, Mouts is definitely having trouble throwing strikes. And at that, he's having trouble throwing quality strikes. He has been thrown into the deep end of the pond. Coming set is Mouts. Here's the 1-0. Strike dotted outside corner at the knees with the four-seam fastball, 92 miles an hour. And the count is now 1 ball and 2 strikes. Mouts has got to come big here. That's why they brought him to the big leagues. And they needed some bullpen help in addition to the lost spot start yesterday. Here's a pitch. Hit on out there to center field. Going out there in front of the track is Victor Scott. He's in front of the wall, and he makes the catch right in front of the wall. He tosses it back in. Moving up there at least is the runner from second. And yep, indeed, there's a sac fly by Vaughn from second to third. And that'll be the first out here in the bottom of the 6th. And the first out recorded in the Major League career of Mouts. Cheers to him. But he still has one hell of a mountain to climb here with runners on first and third and 1 out. Here in the bottom of the 6th with the Cardinals down 2. Rengifo leads off first. Vaughn leads off first. Last time off third. Last time he was there, he got caught in a pickle. Ran him out of the inning. Here's the pitch. Down and away, a sinker out of the zone to the lefty Mitchell, who himself is 1 for 2 today. Jimmy, Crooks, and Romero are being shopped for trade deadline haul. Let's hope a huge return as per Bernie Miklas. You guys watch him too. Coming set is Mouts. Here's the pitch. Down in the low in the dirt, a sinker. That brings the count to 2-0. That's definitely a possibility. It would make sense with the log jam behind the plate. That and Herrera's not going anywhere anytime soon. Lefty-lefty matchup. It's a 2-0 count. Runners on first and third. 1 out, bottom of the 6th. Here's the pitch. Just missed with the inside four-seam fastball, 94 miles per hour. And that brings the count now to 3 balls and no strikes. Will Mitchell go into statue mode? Ahead on the count, 3-0. I think there's a decent possibility of that. But Bounce has got to throw himself a strike. Now here's a 3-0. Strike, sinker right down Broadway, 93 miles per hour. And the count is now 3 balls and 1 strike to Mitchell. It's pronounced Mouts. Okay. Mouts. Mouts comes set at the Birds. Here's the 3-1. Hit on out there to left center field. Charging into the gap is Victor Scott, and it falls in, and fielding it on a hop is Torrance. He throws back into the shortstop, Mason Wynn, and the run will score from third, and that puts runners on first and second. Still with 1 out, it is 4-1 Brewers here in the bottom of the 6th inning. The bottom of the 6th inning. And, Victor Scott made one incredible effort to get to that ball. He nearly got it. He was just about a foot short. Not much you can do. Professional effort right there. Now, here's the righty Ortiz. Runners off first and second. Here's the pitch. Strike, curveball outside corner at the knees. And the count is no balls and 1 strike. Runners are on first and second with 1 out here in the bottom of the 6th. Coming set is Mouts. Showing bunt there is Ortiz. He pulls back on the four-seam fastball up and away. And the count is now 1-1. Mouts. It's a way of doing business. Mouts comes set at the Birds. Here's 1-1. Showing bunt again is Ortiz. He does not pull back in time on the four-seam fastball inside. And that will bring the count now to 1 ball and 2 strikes. Runners are on first and second. There's already 1 in here in the bottom of the 6th inning for Milwaukee. Coming set at the Birds is Mouts. Here's the 1-2. Curveball in the dirt, gets away from Pages. Both runners move up 90 feet, and that'll put runners on second and third with 1 out here in the bottom of the 6th inning. And Mouts is not had a pretty start to his major league career. Granted, he's used to being a starter, and coming in the middle of a game, even at the start of an inning, is a whole different ball game, all pun intended. Mouts comes set. Here's the 2-2. Foul down the first base side and out of play. Four-seam fastball up and away at 95 miles per hour. Looks like the Brewers' dynasty is just getting stronger. There's no dynasty yet. They haven't won anything. This is the end of May, man. Let's not crown a champion before they have the responsibility of crowning themselves. Coming set is Mouts. Here's the 2-2. Foul down the third base side and out of play. Because no team is truly great until they host that World Series trophy. And got a long way to go before that. Playing in on the grass is the Cardinal infield. They want to be able to cut the runner down at home should it prove necessary. Now here's the 2-2. Swinging strike, 3 on a slider, down and down he goes for the second out of the inning. And yep, they are preserving that baseball, tossing it over to the Cardinal dugout for posterity. in the young major league career of Mouts here. Still, runners on second and third with 2 out. Here is the leadoff hitter, the righty Churrillo. Jackson Churrillo's over 2. Here's the pitch. Strike. Curveball outer, third thigh high. And the count is no balls and 1 strike. Runners on second and third, 2 out, 1 already in here in the bottom of the 6th inning. Coming set is Mouts. Here's the 0-1. Strike, right down Broadway, the 4-seam fastball. On the pitch there, Pages very nearly pulled the trigger to throw down to third. See if he could get Vaughn again. Coming set is the lefty Mouts to the righty Churrillo. It's an 0-2 count. Here's the 0-2. Slider in the dirt. Correction, a curveball in the dirt. Keeping it in front of him is Pages. That brings the count to 1 ball and 2 strikes. This is a very competitive National League this year. And we are so fortunate that we are experiencing what appears to be a competitive rebuild in St. Louis. Coming set is Mouts. Here's the 1-2. Up and away, 4-seam fastball, 95 miles per hour, not particularly close to the zone. And the count is 2-2. Give him the all hook 'em horns. Coming set at the Birds is Mouts. It's a 2-2 count. He's at the stretch. Here's the 2-2 to Churrillo. Foul down the first base side and out of play, and a 4-seam fastball up and away, 95 miles per hour. And the count remains 2 balls and 2 strikes. Once again, thank you so much for tuning in and spending part of your Memorial Day with me here, calling some Redbird baseball. Mouts comes set. And he deals. Swinging strike 3 on a changeup down and in for the 3rd and final out of the inning. Churrillo goes down hacking. And Mouts gets out of trouble. He at very least limits the damage. However, Milwaukee pushes across 1 more. It's 4-1 Brewers going to the top of the 7th inning up at Miller Park in southern Wisconsin on the shores of Fair Lake, Michigan. I'm Paul D. And if you're enjoying the stream and you haven't done so already, please leave a like. Helps the channel out immensely. And if you want to see more of it, hit subscribe with the notification bell so you know when it's happening. I usually schedule these things a minimum of, 2 hours or so. Say it was a little later, but basically 2 or 3 hours in advance, if not the night before. And you can come back and enjoy some more. With that in mind, I'm Paul D, and this is Bombers Game Mike. Well, believe me, Jock, there is nothing more that I like to see. Well, I mean, the Cardinals can't walk off here because they are, of course, the road team. But to get ahead late and pin them down for the last 3, just as satisfying. Just as satisfying. I know we're not the home team. You can't walk off unless you're the home team. Didn't understand why they debuted him against 3 righties in a row. No, I do know what you mean. Ultimately, a comeback win late. And I'm just on board. I'm just as on board with that idea as you are. All right here. I think they just needed an arm to throw out there. I didn't understand why they debuted him against 3 righties in a row. Honestly, right now, down in the game, even though the Cardinals are still very much in this thing, they needed a reasonably talented warm body. He was going to pitch yesterday anyway, and then they just started him out at the top of an inning right there off the heels of Liberatore. That's my guess. That's what I'm thinking. Now here's Jordan Walker against Jacob Mizorowski. This will be his 82nd pitch. Here's the first one. Foul down the third baseline and out of play on a slider down and away. The count's 0-1. And, of course, Mizorowski's been sitting for a little while there in that long inning that thankfully only resulted in a single run. Coming set is Mizorowski. He deals. Up and in. Did he go around on the check swing? No, says Blue down the first baseline. And the count is 1-1. Good old Jordan Walker, the ninja with a bat. Here's the 1-1. Swinging strike on the four-seam fastball, well up and away at 99 miles an hour. And the count is now 1-2 strikes. I mean, at this point, time is granted by the home plate umpire at the behest of Jordan Walker. If you can get a few more pitches out of him, certainly here in the top of the seventh, then the Cardinals will be well pleased to face whoever comes out of that Brewer bullpen. Here's the 1-2 pitch. Fouled straight on back on the four-seam fastball, out away at 1-1. The count remains 1-2. Now up to 85 pitches. Coming set is Mizorowski. It's a 1-2 count. Nobody on, nobody out. Here's the pitch. And it is hit out there to shallow center field. Coming in as the center fielder. He's underneath it, squeezes it for the first out of the inning. Mitchell there just managed to get a good hop on the thing, and it hung up for quite a while. Cards will take the division, but getting past the Dodgers will be, well, it'll be tough, to be sure. Do you think the Cardinals v. Dodgers for NLCS series is a doable for these Redbirds? They'll be competitive in the division till the end of the season. Well, that's the first ingredient. I'll answer your question here in a moment. Now, here's Nolan Gorman. Here's the pitch. Slider, strike, right down the middle, right below the belt. And count is 0-1. Well, it really depends on a lot of things. What does the Redbird roster look like going into October? You can't expect that it'll be identical that it is now, so that does make it difficult to answer. Here's the pitch. Curveball fouled down the third base side and out of play. The count is 0-2. I mean, if they can make a move for a plus reliever, that will go a long way, especially when they can reliably plug in at the back end of the bullpen. They could definitely use a front-end quality starter. I think that would be a particularly big deal. On offense, I'm not so concerned, especially with Newt coming back here probably sometime this week. Now, here's the 0-2. Swinging strike, 3 on the four-seam fastball upstairs for the second out of the inning. So Mizorowski, he still has his stuff going here late. 89th pitch for him. So I think with a couple of moves, staying healthy, Nootbaar coming back, which should be soon, and producing well, much better than last year, they have a puncher's chance. Here's the first pitch to Wynn. Four-seam fastball well out and away over the lefty batter's box. The count is 1-0. Mason Wynn, he's 0 for 2 with a pair of ground outs. Nobody on, 2 out, top of the seventh inning. It is 4-1 Brewers. Jacob Mizorowski, he's still on the bump for the Brewers. It's a righty-righty matchup. Now here's the 1-0 pitch. Just missed on the outside corner, 1-0-1 on the four-seam fastball. Count is 2-0. Pirates 1, let's go Cards. Score some runs. Cheers to that. Coming set is Mizorowski. Here's a 2-0. Strike, four-seam fastball right down Broadway, 1-0-1. Count is 2-1. We're already swept the Dodgers this season. So I would say the thing to take from that is that it certainly will imbue the Cardinals with a sense of confidence facing them, no question. Coming set, here's the 2-1. Hit to the right field side and foul on the four-seam fastball at 1-0-1. That brings the count to 2-2 strikes. And of course, in August, the Redbirds make a West Coast swing that will include Dodger Stadium. So we want to see how that plays out before we can get a more accurate idea of what it might look potentially in October. Here's the 2-2. Foul down the first base side and out of play. 1-0-2, four-seam fastball. The Cubs lose to Pittsburgh. Well, that's one part of the equation. Nobody on, 2 outs. A 2-2 count to Mason Wynn. Top of the 7th, 4-1 Brewers. Mizorowski, this is going to be his 95th pitch. Here it is. Foul down the first base side and out of play on the four-seam fastball at 102. Cards are a bit of a funny team this year. 500 at home, but nearly 600 on the road. As they say, usually you need to go 500 on the road to be a good team. Well, they certainly have that one covered. Here's a 2-2. Swinging strike 3 on the curveball, down and away. Down goes Mason Wynn for the third and final out of the inning. 1-2-3 go the Redbirds. It's 7th inning stretch time at Miller Park. As we head to the bottom of the 7th inning, it's 4-1 Milwaukee. I'm Paul D, and this is Bombers Game Mic. Every game does count. Every game does count. But yeah, it is interesting that the Cardinals seem to play quite well on the road. And I'm always of the belief that for a team that doesn't yet play that well at home, that it's something that can always turn around on a dime. And I like to think as this season goes on and more fans file into Busch Stadium, it will give them more of a very clear home field advantage. You know, having hopefully 30,000 plus of really what are the best fans in baseball rooting them on. And I am in no way oblivious to all the circumstances that surround going to Busch Stadium at the moment. But winning doesn't have a stigma. And you know what? I have seen most of my Major League Baseball games played in the South Bronx. And downtown St. Louis ain't the South Bronx, I can tell you that. Good afternoon, everyone. Number 57, let's go Cardinals. We need some runs. Yes, we do. Yes, we do. Joe Breeding, thank you. So, as they sing, Take Me Out to the Ball Game, and there were a lot of active uniform service members on the field for the national anthem up there at Miller Park. No doubt they're taking part of the 7th inning stretch to continue that well-earned and rightfully earned recognition. All right. We are back for the bottom of the 7th inning. It is 4-1 Brewers. Getting late here on this Memorial Day afternoon Redbirds baseball. And it looks like Mouts is out for his second frame of work. 2-1, 1-2-1 for the Cardinals. Something like 4-9 and 0 for Milwaukee. Let me double check that. Yep, 4-9 and 0 Milwaukee. So Mouts, he's out there for his second frame of work. Okay. Here in relief, Liberatore, he went 5 frames for the Redbirds. Then he ran up against 100 pitches. Now it's a lefty-lefty matchup against Turang. Here's a pitch. Check swing on a slider down and away. Did not go around. Didn't even bother with the appeal. The count is 1-0. What Brewers dynasty? They've never won anything. Not like the Cardinals. You got that right. Here's the 1-0. Up and in, a sinker out of the zone. Count is now 2-0. You are correct, David Hodge. Like I said, dynasties have to crown themselves. I'm not going to do it for them. Here's a 2-0 pitch. Foul down the third base side and out of play. The count is 2 balls and 1 strike. So right now, Mouts absolutely has to keep the Brewers right here because presumably the Cardinals will get their shot at the Brewers bullpen in the top of the 8th. Here's a pitch. Up and in, a slider just missed Turang. And the count is now 3 balls and 1 strike. Nobody on, nobody out. Bottom of the 7th inning. Lefty-lefty matchup. Here's a pitch. Foul back on the four-seam fastball on the inner third under the belt. And that will bring the count 3 balls and 2 strikes. Mouts has fought his way back into this at-bat against the lefty hitting second baseman for Milwaukee. He comes set. Here's a 3-2. Ball 4 on the slider, down and away, so a leadoff walk by Mouts here to start off the bottom of the 7th inning. That was the 36th pitch so far in this outing from Mouts. Clout smack 420. Brewers Dynasty is better than anything we've seen in sports considering no salary cap. It's even more impressive. It's impressive when you actively discount that they have not won a World Series. I don't mean to put too fine a point on that, but that is kind of the important thing as far as dynasties go. Coming set is Mouts. Here's the pitch. Swinging strike, four-seam fastball, outside corner swung right underneath. That one did the righty hitting Contreras, and the count is 0-1. I mean, that's the only rebuttal I can put to that. If they go out and win a couple of World Series over the next 3 years, I'll be the first one to call them a dynasty. Here's the 0-1. Inside, four-seam fastball, 94 miles per hour off the plate, and the count is 1-1. I will not give them anything they have not yet earned themselves. Coming set is Mouts. Here's the 1-1. Check swing on the curveball down and in. Did he go? No, says Blue down the first baseline, and the count is 2-1. Runner leads off first. Nobody out. It's a 2-1 count here in the bottom of the 7th. 4-1 Brewers. Here's the pitch. Slider down and in, 84 miles per hour. And the count is now 3 balls and 1 strike. Currently 4-1 Milwaukee in the bottom of the 7th. Coming set at the Birds is Mouts. Here's the pitch. Foul down the first base side now to play on the four-seam fastball. Going over towards the line is Jordan Walker. It stays in, and he makes the catch. Throws it back in for the first out of the inning. Boy, that thing off the bat looked absolutely like it was going foul. Fooled the hell out of me. But I'll take the first out of the inning compared to another foul ball in that bat. Now here's Christian Yelich. He's 1 for 3 with that 2-run bomb back in the first. 1 out, 1 on. Throws over to first. Back there in time is Turang. Yes. You can give me the business in the chat. I own it. A home run, a strikeout swinging, and a ground out. Coming set is Mouts as a lefty-lefty matchup. Here's the pitch. Strike, sinker, outside corner at the knees. And the count is no balls and 1 strike. No, when I screw up, I deserve the business. I own it. Runner leads off first. Coming set is Mouts. Here's the 0-1. Strike right down Broadway. Actually a little bit below the knees, but no one's challenging the thing. The count's 0-2. I remember 2011 with great clarity. Here's the pitch. Hit down up the middle and through the hole for a base hit. The runner is coming around second, and it looks like Turang will stay right there. So runners on first and second with 1 out in the bottom of the 7th inning. Yeah, that was a gem. That's going on the blooper reel for the end of the year. Unfortunately, I wasn't alive for 82. But 2011, I remember really well. That was my favorite World Series. Runners on first and second. Here's the righty Vaughn. Here's the pitch. Curveball out and away for a ball. Floated over the lefty batter's box. The count is now 1 ball and no strike. That was the 45th pitch for Mouts here in 1 1/3 inning of work. Runners lead off first and second. Mouts comes set. Lefty-righty matchup with the righty Vaughn at the plate. Here's the pitch. Up and away, four-seam fastball, 91 miles per hour, not particularly close to the zone. And the count is 2 balls and no strikes. Coming set at the Birds is Mouts. Here's a 2-0. Foul down the first base side and out of play on a four-seam fastball up and in at 93. The count goes to 2-1. A lot of pitches for a rookie. Yeah, in many ways, I think he's kind of taken one for the team at the moment. That, and I think Ollie Marmol was just really wanting to get him into a game. Coming set is Mouts at the Birds. Here's the 2-1. Hit on out there to left field. Going back into the corner is Torres. He dives, and it goes over the wall for a ground rule double. So 1 run will score on that. Yes, indeed. And that brings runners to second and third. It is now, I put it for the Cards, it is definitely for the Brewers. And that will put runners on second and third with 1 out here in the bottom of the 5th inning. Brian Torres made an incredible effort. He made a full body head-first dive there on the track. It was fell about 2 feet in front of him, bounced over the wall for the ground rule double. Now here's the righty Rengifo. He's 2 for 2 today. Runners on second and third, 1 out. Here's the first pitch. Foul down the first base side and out of play on the four-seam fastball. The count is no balls and 1 strike. Guarin has returned. Welcome back, Guarin. Hey, when you make a mistake, you got to own it. You got to own it, Joe Breeding. I am not above owning it. Here's the 0-1 pitch. Hit on out there to right center field. Coming in is Jordan Walker. He makes it on the catch. He throws on home. The runner is tagging, and it is not in time. So that is a 6-run here for the Brewers here today, and the second out of the inning. The runner, of course, stays at second on the play. And the Brewers are beginning to pull away in this one. T.H. Arfelli, even more impressive for World Series appearances with 41 for the Yankees and 19 for the Cardinals. You think he's a Yankee fan, folks? Oh, goodness, he is out. That is going to have to be reviewed. And it is under review. And he is out at the plate. So basically what happened there is it was not a clean slide across the plate by the runner. One of his legs, his right leg, I believe, was tucked in. His left leg was high, and when Pages pulled down the throw and tagged him on the shoulder, he had not yet touched the plate. I have no doubt that call will be overturned. We're waiting for the signal, and he is out at the plate. So take 1 away from the Brewers, and that'll give us the third and final out of the inning. So in all-world defensive play and throw by Jordan Walker to cut the runner down at the plate, and we head to the top of the 8th inning. It is still 5-1 Milwaukee. However, 1 less run is 1 less run. Yeah, it was a bad slide. It was a bad slide by the runner. But a beautiful play, 1, by Jordan Walker, just hauling it in. 2, a pretty good throw. And 3, Pages hauling it in and getting that tag down. Walker's been a beast this year. It's been a firecracker. All I can respond to that is 100%. 100%. So with that in mind, 5-1 Milwaukee going to the top of the 8th. I'm Paul D. And if you're digging my call of the game here on the stream, please leave a like. You want to see more of it, hit subscribe with the notification bell. Both of those things help out the channel immensely, and I appreciate them more than you can know. And with that said, me here, you there, And this is Bombers Game Mike. Yeah, Cards have to catch up with my other team, the Giants, in World Series appearances. These Dodgers are a problem now with the most NL appearances. You know, I still never forget how the team we know today, in their current incarnation, the Dodgers, were ripped from the devoted hands of the fans in Brooklyn. Like I said, I've been rewatching Ken Burns' baseball, the seventh inning about baseball in the 50s most recently, and that covers the departure of the Giants and Dodgers extensively. Boy. And here in St. Louis, we know something about losing a team, especially what we consider, and rightly so, BS reasons, to an owner who's looking to get a bigger market. In fact, the exact same market that Walter O'Malley was seeking to capitalize from in 57. Now, here's the first pitch. A ball. And we have ourselves a pitching change here. The lefty Ashby is on the mound. He's in against the lefty Torres, so Jacob Mizorowski is out of this game. Here's the 1-0 pitch. Strike, sinker, inside corner, thigh high. The count's 1-1. They're winning because they're buying Japan. Not going to get any reputation from me on that. Here's the pitch. Slider inside and off the plate to the lefty Torres, and the count is now 2-1. Yeah, they have definitely picked up the best free agents and postings from Japan quite recently. Here's a 2-1. Hit to the left side. Right there is Rengifo. He fields on a hop. He throws to first in time for the first out of the inning. So putting good wood on it there is Torres. Unfortunately, Rengifo was played right there to get it on a perfect hop through a strike to first base for the first out of the inning. And that is 1 out. Korean players as well. Yeah, absolutely. There is some serious talent playing in South Korea. The difference between the Cardinals and every other team we build from, I'll get back to that in a moment. Here's the first pitch to Pages. He hits it out there to center field deep in front of the wall. He makes the catch in the deepest part of the ballpark in right center field for the second out of the inning. The differences between the Cardinals and every other team, we build from within. Always have, always will. That's true baseball. There's no question that the Cardinals have done an amazing job over the last 30 years of building their winning from within their own system. In addition to, a good free agent acquisition there, smart trade there. And players like playing in St. Louis, and it's no wonder why. They're great fans. Here's the first pitch. Sinker away to Jose Fermin, who is pinch hitting for Victor Scott II. Looking for the righty-lefty matchup. The righty hitting for Min against the lefty Aaron Ashby. Here's the 1-0 pitch. Strike, inside corner, 99 miles per hour with a sinker. It's on the inner third, about thigh high. The count is 1-1. Cubs have lost 9 in a row. Yeah, can you believe it? Talk about a streaky team. Goodness gracious. Now, here's the 1-1 from Ashby. Just inside a sinker, but it's out of the zone. 99 miles per hour. The count is 2-1. Taguchi, I wish we had another one of him. Yeah. Definitely. Here's a 2-1. Hit on out there to shallow center field. Going back is the second baseman, Terang. He's under it. He makes the catch in shallow center field for the third and final out of the inning. We head to the bottom of the eighth. It is 5-1 Brewers up in Milwaukee on the fair shores of Lake Michigan. 5-1 Brewers. I'm Paul D. Thank you so much for joining me here today. I know it has not been the greatest showing so far, but the Cardinals still have 3 outs to work with. As we learned in a very similar situation, though admittedly the game was closer, on Saturday night in Game 2 of that doubleheader, this team does have a cardiac kids gene remaining in them. Not just remaining in them, imbued in them. They believe they can win any game. And that undoubtedly is an ingredient for at least what I would call a potential special team. But there's still much baseball to be played both today. Well, not that much baseball left to be played today, but certainly for the remainder of the 2026 season. These guys have confidence in themselves. Young guys, durable, very talented. How lucky have we been? We got to have faith. Yes, we do, THR Philly. Yes, we do. I'm a bad person to want to see 10. No, you're not a bad person. You are doing exactly what any good Cardinal fan would do and want exactly what they would want. I'm cool seeing them lose 10 in a row. I had to go watch them win 10 in a row, 9, 10, 11, whatever it was. So I consider this, the baseball karma in the universe balancing out for the north side of Chicago. They're doing good, brother soldier. Cheers, thank you. Ain't over till it's over. Absolutely. We haven't lost a series for a while, though. It's going to happen eventually. Faith War Cry. I'd love to hear that in person. Now, here's the first pitch from Mouts. Strike, four-seam fastball, inside corner above the knees to the righty Perkins. The count is now no balls and one strike. Let's go Cardinals. They could win, possibly. It ain't over yet. Mouts winds and deals. Inside, actually gets away from Pages, the four-seam fastball. Wasn't near the zone, but the count's 1-1. Luckily, there's nobody on. Win the series. It's what matters. Absolutely. Over 162, that is absolutely what counts. Now, here's the 1-1 pitch. Hit down the left field line, slicing foul on the curveball down and in, and that brings the count 1-2 on Perkins. Mouts has himself ahead in this at-bat. We need to get some runs to get it going, absolutely. In the top of the ninth, that's going to be last licks. Coming set is Mouts, lefty-righty matchup with the righty Perkins. And here's the 1-2 pitch. Hit on up the middle. Right there is J.J. Willa fielding on a hop. Throws to first in time for the first out of the inning. Very fine play there by Weatherholt. That hop actually came off the side of the pitcher's mound. So that could have taken any sort of weird hop you could imagine given the curvature of the mound. Luckily, J.J. was right there, came right to him. It was like magnetism. Tossed him out for the first out of the inning. Now here's the center fielder, Mitchell, the 8-hitter. He's hitting 2 for 3. It's a lefty-lefty matchup against the lefty pitching Mouts. Here's the pitch. Slider down and away, 85 miles an hour. The count is 1-0. We need to get some runs to get it going. We really do. Coming set is Mouts. Here's the 1-0 to Mitchell. A sinker downstairs for a ball. The count is 2-0. So Mouts has one job right now. Keep him at 5. Now here's the 2-0 pitch. Hit down the first base side. Charging in is Burleson. He takes it to the bag himself for the second out of the inning. Weakly hit towards first base. Played very skillfully there by Alec Burleson on a pair of very small bunny hops. And he takes it to the bag himself for the second out. Rookie's almost at 60 pitches. I respect he's learning a lot from this. Oh, I think you are absolutely right. I think he is learning some very important lessons from this. It's one thing dominating at AAA. It's another thing pitching in the majors. Here's the pitch. Up and away, a curveball out of the zone, 78 miles per hour to the righty Ortiz, and the count is 1-0. That jump between AAA and the majors is a light year in difference of talent and ability. Here's 1-0. Hit on out to center field, going about a half dozen steps to his right is the center fielder. He makes the catch for the third and final inning. Final out of the inning. The Brewers, they finally go down in order, and we head to the top of the ninth. It's 5-1 Milwaukee. Last licks this afternoon for the Redbirds to see if they can get back into this game. Like if you are showing some hope, showing some rally cap hope that they can come back 5-1 in the top of the ninth. Keep the faith alive, as it's been said, including here in this chat and this broadcast. And we await the top of the ninth inning. So, for the top of the ninth, you couldn't write it up any better if you were putting this to a script, at least in theory. Weatherholt's leading off, followed by Herrera, then Burleson. And of course, if it comes around to it, Jordan Walker, of course, is in the 4-hole. Cardinals bend, but we don't die. Absolutely. That is the character of this team. And the character of this team is not something to be overlooked, because they do really believe they are in every game, because they have been in every game. Let's go, man. Lots of work. So much work. So much work. But this is a good offense. You know, this is a good offense. They can do it. And we await the top of the night, and J.J. Weatherholt leading off the action. 3 outs to work with for the Cardinals offense. They are down 5-1 here on Memorial Day afternoon. And of course, we'll be back tomorrow night for what is scheduled 6:40 p.m. first pitch Central Time for Game 2 of the Cardinals and the Brewers. And Ashby's out for his second frame of work. Here's the pitch. Strike, sinker, in on the hand, swung right through it, did JJ, and the count is now 0-1. Yeah, the lefty Ashby, I saw him against the Yankees a couple of times. This guy is nobody to nap on. He is very good out of the pen, especially as a lefty reliever. Let's go Cardinals, David Hodge. Here's the 0-1. Upstairs, a slider, 85 miles per hour. Up and in, clear out of the zone. The count is 1-1 strike. Well, at least the Cubs have lost today. Coming set is Ashby. Here's the 1-1. Grounded to the right side, fielded on a hop by Terang. He throws to first in time for the first out of the top of the ninth. 2 outs remaining for this Cardinal offense, down 5-1 up at Miller Park this afternoon. Now here comes the DH today, Ivan Herrera. He's 0 for 3. I will say this. Second time around for Jacob Mizorowski, when the Cardinals see him again, and I'm sure they will, before this year is over in all likelihood, may not go quite as smoothly. Herrera with his big, wide, right-handed, open batting stance. Here's the first pitch. Up and away, a sinker, 97 miles per hour, nowhere near the zone. The count is 1-0. It's a lefty-righty matchup with the lefty throwing Ashby against the righty hitting Herrera. Coming set is Ashby. Now here's the 1-0. Upstairs and out of the zone, a sinker, 98 miles an hour. The count is now 2 balls and no strikes. And once again, thank you all so much for joining me here on Memorial Day. I can't think of any crowd else I'd rather be with here on this very special American holiday. Here's a 2-0. Foul back on a sinker out over the plate. Fouled right back behind home plate. And the count is now 2 balls and 1 strike. Yeah, I can think of some, but I can't remember the name. Here's a 2-1. Strike, sinker, down and away. Right at the knees, evens out the count at 2-2. I appreciate you, brother. Much love. Thank you, Joe Breeding. It really means a lot to me. I do my best to give you the best call. Here's a 2-2. Chopped foul down the third base line. Now to play on a changeup down and away. And the count remains 2-2. No, anytime you guys send love my way, it registers up here. I do not give you platitudes. It's the real thing from the real Paul. Coming set is Ashby. Here's a 2-2 to Herrera. Check swing on the curveball in the dirt. Did he go around? No, says Blue down the first baseline. And that brings the count full to 3 balls and 2 strikes. The Brewers once had a pitcher named Milt Famey, who was known to pitch while drunk. I would argue that pitching intoxicated is a baseball pastime. Here's a 3-2. Swinging strike 3 on the curveball, down and in. Down goes Herrera for the second out of the inning. So the Cardinals are down to their final strike. Lord knows Babe Ruth and his 714 career home runs, many of those were hit with him hungover. And probably quite a few of them using the hair of the dog before the game. Now here is Burleson. Here's the pitch. Strike, slider inside corner, thigh high, and the count is now 0-1 strike. It was the beer that made Mitt Famey walk us, the other team said. Well, nobody said it was easy playing wasted. Here's the pitch. Pop straight on up here. Rengifo, he comes underneath it in front of third. He makes the catch, and that will do it. So, 5-1 is your final. 5-1 Milwaukee here on Memorial Day afternoon. A disappointing outcome. The Cardinals are, in fact, 2 hit in this one. They are 1-2-1 against the Brewers, 5-11-0. However, they'll be back tomorrow night for the 6:40 p.m. Central Time start. And I will be back with a 6:30 p.m. Central Time start right here on YouTube. So Bombers Game Mike will have the action tomorrow night for Miller Park, as well as the Getaway Day game on Wednesday afternoon. Then Thursday is the off day, and then they have 3 at home against the Cubs. Disappointing outcome here, but all I can say is, with that put aside, thank you so much for spending your Memorial Day here with me. It is not lost on me how important that is on a special day, especially if you have it off, and how lucky I am to be able to spend this time with you. Your Cardinal friend here enjoys every minute of it, make no doubt. Unfortunately, since this was not a victory, I can't play the victory tune. But that aside, this has been a production of Bombers Game Mike. I'm Paul D. Thank you all so much for joining me. 10-4 disco. Yes, sir, 3-day weekend. Yeah, definitely. My wife has the day off today. We're very happy about that. Kyle Harrison is pitching tomorrow, so that will be another tough one. Yeah, it is. I saw Harrison pitch against the Yankees. He was almost as good in that game as Mizorowski was the night before in that series. But it's a new day, new game, and this Cardinal team does not go quietly. But with that in mind, 5-1 up in Milwaukee, rather 5-1 Milwaukee up in Milwaukee is your final. This has been a production of Bombers Game Mike. I am Paul D. And with that in mind, Bombers Game Mike over and out. 5-1 Milwaukee is your final. Thank you and enjoy the rest of your Labor Day.